First of all, I know this one is so.
That's a sentence. Wow. You just did a root. Oh, my God. I'm free. Isn't it fun when you hear it? It is. I'm sorry. Please go ahead. A lot of words.
Is that like a broken curse or something?
Maybe.
I probably should have thought better on how to start this sentence.
You're listening to Slightly Uncomfortable. Are you ready?
Welcome to Slightly Uncomfortable, everybody. What? Yeah, I know. We have got a rare appearance. Oh, my goodness.
Is it Bigfoot?
No. Loch Ness Monster?
Nope.
We have one Mr. Alex.
Hey.
Welcome back to the book. And it's the first time ever for Alex to be paired with Caleb.
Yeah, I'm here as well.
Yeah, and Caleb, please tell everybody what you brought tonight. Now, Caleb,
do we have to talk about this?
No.
Yes, we must talk about
Caleb
this.
has really been stepping up.
Yeah, I'm 3 for 3.
Right, no, you're 3 for 4. Or 2 for 3, however many times it's been. Because this is...
I don't get credit for that.
You do not.
This is a -1.
Yeah. I mean, you could have pissed in a bottle been better than this. I ain't going to lie to you. I'm not saying
I
I
make
know
my
it.
own at home.
I'm not saying that I know it. I'm just saying I assume it. So tell everybody what you brought.
So I brought some Hawaiian moonshine, which I don't know what really makes it Hawaiian.
In what world did that seem like a good idea?
When I said, hey, this has been in my cabinet for a long time, I bet these idiots will drink it.
And we did not.
Well, we
Everybody got one
yes.
glass in, and it's like, nope. Wow. But it's 100 proof. It is a moonshine, so clear spirit, no aging or anything like that. It is made from cane spirit with tea root, whatever that is. I don't have a clue.
Root? What is tea root?
It is nasty. That's
Yes.
what it is.
I mean, the man named after a root, I thought would know what tea root
Right,
is.
yeah.
He does not.
I know it's... oh, God.
Got a whole bunch of Hawaiian on the back of the label.
A whole bunch of Hawaiian.
Looks like somebody spilled a Scrabble box.
But only with 6 letters, right?
6 letters and a bunch of punctuation.
Something about 1790. That's all I know.
Yeah, well,
what
that's
happened
nice.
in 1790?
This is the
Root,
last
you know?
time that something tasted good from that fucking bottle.
No, but I didn't get that. I picked that up on my honeymoon back a few years ago, and it has been in my cabinet ever since. Like I told y'all before,
And it should go back there.
right. That's where it's gonna go, back in the back where nobody touches it.
Yeah.
But sucker for marketing, old milk bottle, porcelain looking.
It is a nice
kind of thing.
It is a nice looking
It's a
bottle.
cool looking
I
thing.
hate it now.
I thought it looked interesting.
I absolutely hate the bottle now because I've tasted what was in it. It's cause and effect. I've tasted what's in it. Now I hate it.
Right.
It's
I
terrible.
was less impressed with it after I tasted it the first time too. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my God!
But-
It was like.
It was something from my honeymoon, so it was cool.
Well,
to
all right,
have.
you got a lot out of your honeymoon. We got shit out of your honeymoon. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm sure you and Nikki had a blessed time. I've never said blessed on this damn podcast before.
It's fitting, though.
But I'm going to tell you right now, you didn't bring that blessing back to us. I ain't going to lie to you. Woo. All right, so Alex, tell us what you've been doing in your vagabond ways. I mean, you've just been bebopping back and forth. And we're sure you're doing show research, right?
Doing show research?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, when do I ever do that?
Oh, God.
That's the point.
I know, that's true. I mean, there's a reason why that Lloyd brings papers. That's why he's in the 4th chair. You brought nothing. I actually messaged you tonight to bring what?
Even got a reminder. I mean,
No, I sent a reminder.
He did bring some fine socks.
Oh, God,
boy.
Root's got a heart on.
No scarf, but he did bring some fine
You
socks.
have been blue balling Root by not being here. because
Come
we
up with
bring
one sound
nothing.
effect for him.
Lloyd has been sitting over there, and I've just seen a little bit of sadness in Root's face.
It was terrible.
I know. He did have a mohawk one time. We won't get into that.
Not me.
He was trying hard, and it failed.
Yeah.
So we have a tough show tonight.
Yeah.
Although poignant, tough.
Yeah. It's not the first time we've dealt with this gravity of issue, you know, but due to recent events, it's a little bit tougher this time.
Well, and not only recent events, and honestly, the events that we've had taking place here locally, by our standards, will not qualify
That's
for
true.
what we're talking about.
Right.
But let's first talk about what the subject is. We're talking about mass shootings. And let's define for everyone, guys, what we are referring to when we say mass shootings. And honestly, what we're not referring to. Because shootings is shootings, but we're talking about something on a grand scale. So tell everybody what we are actually limiting and what we're not limiting.
So we're going to be talking about the randomized kind of shooting. This is the ones that make the news in the biggest way, nationwide, that kind of thing. This isn't the gangland shootings, the people who know each other and somebody gets caught in the crossfire. Those are obviously terribly, terribly sad, and they are, a whole other set of conversations to be had. But what we're talking about tonight is really those situations where people are just living their day-to-day lives, and someone that doesn't know anybody who's involved just starts shooting into a crowd, into a school, into a church, just to basically cause havoc and essentially a degree of terrorism.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons that we chose to define what we were looking at early is this is a huge, huge topic. And not just this topic here, but it can splinter in so many different directions that are even bigger topics. And we want to make sure that we try to stay concise in what it is. And that's a hard thing for us to do here at Slightly Uncomfortable, is we have a hard time pinpointing and staying on task. But we're going to really effort to do that tonight. Now, also, there's going to be some levity, because that's what we do. I hope it doesn't go any, I hope we don't offend anybody. If we do, you got uncomfortable, you're welcome. That's what we do. But so what we're trying to what I've charged the guys to do is, if we are giving the power or the authority to fix this, what would we do to fix mass shootings? Is that fair, everybody?
King for a day.
My God, Root's hair is already scary.
It's been a while since I've been to our sponsor.
We'll get to the sponsor in a minute, because again, if we go too early on the sponsor, he stops listening.
He does.
But we need a full download from Mike at the Plaza Barbershop there in Frankfort, Kentucky. But we really need Root to wear more hats. When it's a little longer, between visits to Mike, just go ahead and if you want to wear one of those little bibs they wear at Kroger to protect the hair from falling out from the beard, wear that too. If you want to just cloak yourself, maybe a burqa. A burqa would be, suggested. So.
Yeah, because, that's not offensive at all.
We're going to be offensive. All right, so I'm going to just throw it to the guys, and we're going to talk about what solution, and then we're going to have a roundtable discussion, even though this is kind of rectangular. We're going to have a roundtable discussion about what we think about it. We're not going to get in arguments. We never have before. We won't do it tonight, because all four of us at this table have a difference of opinion on this. I promise you that. And if you get 25 people in a room, they're going to have a difference of opinion in this. So we're going to respect one another's opinion, and we'll take it from there. We're going to throw to Root.
Of course. So, Root's king for the day.
The hair. It's just the hair. I try to look at him when he's talking.
You can't take it serious.
I can't.
You can't see if I do that.
My God. Oh, my God. The fact that you don't wear product and you're hanging on to that 7-head. It's not a 4-head. It's a 7-head.
It'll be a 10-head.
I'm going to have to just look at Caleb because his hair is on point.
Well, he's also 12.
Well, he is.
So, I guarantee you, Root's solution to this problem.
He already went through it third person.
Is not going to set well with anybody.
Oh boy.
It is real simple. Hold family and associates responsible for these kinds of behaviors. You can see nutballs coming.
That's what you say.
She did not say that.
That's what Root says on a Thursday.
Whenever one of these craziness things happen, there's always one or two close family friends that says, well, he had that mental health issue. Well, he was acting awfully strange.
He threatened me one day.
He threatened me one day. And it was really out of character for him to rush out and buy, 6 rifles or 3 pitchforks or whatever the fuck was the tool at play.
I don't
40
think
bags
there's-
of fertilizer.
I don't
Right.
believe there's been a pitchfork incident in recent history.
They don't report much from the Amish country. Though,
They don't.
so
They don't.
it's-
Right, I know.
You know,
Well, they actually took a pitchfork to a wagon wheel, and
But you know, hold the people associated with these folks accountable. Now, you know, the 4 of us sitting around this table, we know each other fairly well. Caleb's kind of new to us, but I can pretty well.
we're all
Promise.
bearded men. We know each other.
Right, true.
We're all bearded
it's a
men.
club.
Different levels of awesomeness.
I can pretty much promise if Caleb comes in and he's acting strange, James and I are going to say, "Dude, you all right?" And then check up on him. I know. If
I don't
James
know
was
where he
acting
lives.
weird, I can find that
I
out.
can't check up on him.
I can find that out. That's easy. But you know that we should all look out for each other more than we are doing.
Okay, so
Can
no,
can
go
I
ahead.
throw one in there?
Go ahead.
Not only the families and associates, but also law enforcement that has been warned
Yeah.
about someone, because that has been a common theme here recently too. Is these people have a history with law enforcement and nothing was done.
Now that's true. That's true. But law enforcement is just that. They're here to enforce laws.
Right? They can only go so far,
Right.
but
If the laws aren't stringent enough to allow for people to be handled, then you know the cops can't do anything.
I see that.
may interject.
Doesn't matter.
Is there anything more from?
Oh, I could go on for days.
Well,
but I
we
won't.
know, but we have to intercede. So I know because of all the podcasts we've done and the conversations you and I have had, is that you're a staunch libertarian, lower government, lower legislative, right? I mean, smaller.
No government.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's pretty
Well,
much
again,
where I'm at now.
I'm trying to give you benefit of something.
So who's holding these people accountable if there's no government?
That's my point. Is you're saying that there needs to be more stringent laws on the books, but
No,
you
no,
don't,
no, 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 no.
because the police officers cannot enforce
Oh,
something that's not there.
so you mean the mob of us should go after them?
A militia. Oh, now we're talking about militias. Now it's all went off the charts.
With the laws that are currently out there, right? Murders is a crime.
It's bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Murder's bad.
It is
Hell,
looked down on.
even convicted felons with firearms, that's illegal. You're not supposed to be able to pick up a firearm.
Even
If-
trying to buy one is illegal.
Right.
Not actually getting one, but even trying.
attempting to, right? And it doesn't matter if you're picking one up from Joe across the street or the local firearm store, gun shop. So all of these crimes are already on the books, but
you're
nobody
saying-
gets held accountable.
But you're saying that
Held to account.
the local police officers are held captive by the laws that are not placed on the books to enable them to intercede on, all right, Cousin Harry is losing his fucking mind and went to the gun shop and bought a lot of stuff that's legal.
Right.
They can't do anything about that.
Because
Is it committed a crime?
He has not.
At that point, he hasn't.
Because, but by your standard of let's enforce things by family and connections. You call the police. Police
But-
want to say,
no,
I agree with you. That's concerning. We can't do anything about it.
But okay, the cops can't do anything about it. By God, I'll break his leg, set him on the ground.
And then there is a law, but what they can do is something
And that's
about what you
assault.
just did.
Yeah.
Do you really think Crazy Boy's going to call the cops?
Oh, crazy people call the cops all the time.
Not this one.
Have you seen the
I'll
circuit
take
court?
his damn mouth
The,
shut.
the fact that you know someone, that you have a person
This particular
in mind.
person.
But you see what I'm saying there is you're asking for us to police our own. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
And this has been a consistent theme, and I appreciate that because you are, if anything, you're consistent.
Consistently nuts.
And have a very poor hairstyle. But you've consistently said that. But there has to be a method of enforcement. And if there's no law on the books to be able to enforce,
Why do you need a law to stop somebody that you know is going to endanger others? You
all right,
stop
all right,
them.
if you live in a fucking holler, that works.
If
That
you
doesn't
live in
work in a
Frankfurt, that
subdivision in
works.
Frankfurt.
Sure it does.
Boys,
Well, I would say so.
Caleb looks at Alex and goes,
So
he's still buying something on Amazon.
Okay, so
There's a
he's-
scarf sale. It's Alan
busy.
season scarf sale.
I would say I think what we're trying to say though is that we should check up on each other. Like you said, somebody's acting out of sorts. You need to go and talk to them and say, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Did something happen at work or, whatever?
All right.
Be someone for somebody to talk to, because if they can vent, if they can get that out.
Then what do you do?
Well, it depends on how far
it's
that's taken.
It's nice to think that root will break somebody's kneecaps. That's not realistic. How many kneecaps have you broken in the last 10 years? Exactly. I don't want to know. But I'm
Because
saying,
I don't trust anybody. I stay at home.
it's a matter of, all right, exactly what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
You stay the fuck home. You don't know if your neighbor has any issues. We
No.
We don't live in that society any longer.
Well,
To where it's a holler and everybody knows everything about everybody.
It's not a village.
Right.
granted.
We are very isolated. We live in our pods and we don't talk to other people. That doesn't work now.
But if I came down here to do one of these shows and I'm ranting and raving about the workplace,
Which you do.
which I do, but I don't say I'm going to go in there
All
and
right,
kill
dude,
everybody.
I would have already called authorities on you like 27 times. I ain't gonna lie to you. You are fucked up. We're all fucked up. That's who we are.
Yeah, but do you think I'm going to act on it?
So you're asking to define the level of fucked upness,
Yes.
right? I mean, all right, he's more fucked up than normal. So we should call some. Who are you going to call? He came in the basement. He acted weird. He brought his gun out. Oh, I'm sorry. That was podcast number 7.
Of 30.
Right? But you see where I'm going with that. It's just not feasible.
So now you're pushing the issue of what they want to pass now is red flag laws. That's not feasible.
Well, but
I don't think it works.
that is 180 degrees out of phase from what I'm talking about.
Right, yeah, because now you're talking about getting
Wait a minute. I didn't know there'd be math.
He's got to figure out how many degrees are in a circle
I
here.
know. Shut the fuck up, kid.
So talk about.
I just had geometry.
Take the tip out of your mouth and shut up. I don't want to talk over. He just said, I just had geometry.
Yeah, I know.
That was gold. That was gold.
So red flag law.
Yeah.
What is it?
So red flag laws are where you as an individual say, hey, this person is acting really weird, or they threaten me, or I'm their
I need an
ex-spouse,
adult.
and
Yeah.
I feel, I need an adult. I feel like they are threatening me, or they could do me bodily harm, or someone else bodily harm. So then the state or the government, whoever the police force steps in, they come into the home after a judge orders it without due process, and you have a immediate confiscation of any firearms in the home.
Any weapons?
Any weapons, yeah, in general, from the home. And it is a long process to get that right restored because someone reported you, whether it was a coworker or an ex-spouse or just somebody pissed
Is it
off.
by definition a no due process kind of a thing, or is this a
Majority of the laws that are
situation
in-
where it's like it can be a crime to make a threat? So then once that happens, then you have the possibility of
but
having
you only,
any of your weapons.
When I say due process, the individual that's being reported on has no say in it. They do not get a court date. They do not get beforehand.
There's no defense.
It's the victim, quote unquote, shows up to the police station or wherever. They file their report. The police take that to a judge. Judge orders, okay, remove all weapons from this individual. The police show up at your doorstep. They knock on the door, essentially what is a warrant at that point, and they enter your home without your say-so or anything like that. They remove everything, and then you're left to pick up the pieces at that point.
They
That's-
confiscate your personal property.
Well,
Is what somebody else said.
And
Yeah.
we can go into the weeds of this, but I think we all would agree that's a knee-jerk reaction to a problem.
It is.
Yeah,
And
it's not a long-term solution.
It's
That's-
not. It's not. And
Yeah.
anytime you do a knee-jerk reaction, it's never going to be productive to the overall goal of what you're trying to do. So
But we
to
have
surmise,
to do something.
to surmise, Root, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Like he has never had a problem doing that before. You're saying, please, your brother, be your brother's keeper.
Yep.
All right. If you see someone getting away from the norm, all right. Now, again, I'm going to question this just one more time. All right. You boys know I am fucked up. I am a handful. What is outside my norm? You know what I'm saying? I mean, because you only.
I think
see
it would be
me-
the opposite with you, though. I
Getting
think
quiet.
if you
If
show
I
up,
got quiet.
if you showed up quiet and you're not talking to anybody and
So
you're
you're
just keeping
calling
to
the fucking
yourself.
law because I had a bad day.
No.
I ain't calling law for shit.
Oh, you're breaking
you
my
got-
knees.
I'll break your damn. Now
Yeah.
do whatever it
That
takes
seems a
show 'em.
lot.
to figure out what the fuck's
So
going
this is
on.
vigilante law.
Right.
You show up and you say, James, dude, what's up? You are quiet today.
Yeah.
You're
You're
talking
not
about
picking on anybody. You're not
militia
doing anything.
rule.
No,
I don't
How
see the
is it
difference. I
not?
don't see the difference.
I think that I could go get your dad, and the three of us.
He
sit
doesn't
down.
move really well anymore.
I can
so
hear you.
it's going to be a long I may already shoot some people before he gets over here. I'm just saying he's old.
I think family confrontation has more impact, and could end up with a voluntary 48-hour visit to the psych ward.
All right, I'm not saying
Which
that.
voluntary, 100% for, 100% with.
Well, and I agree with you. I think in some circumstances that works. An intervention. That's what we're talking about. Is intervention.
Yeah.
That's a modern term on what you're talking about. You get your ass out of the holler, even though he grew up in Lexington. There ain't no damn hollers in Lexington.
Oh,
I'm just
no,
saying he
man.
acts like he did. He did not.
I grew up on the East End of Lexington.
That's like saying
That's
I played
pretty damn
college
close to the
basketball.
holler.
Division III is what I played. Division III.
But you know that's only
a-
20 minutes
that's a-
from Harlan, right?
that's a-
Right, exactly.
That's a
Tates Creek Bridge, yeah.
it's a cultural hollow.
Did he just say hollow?
Yeah, well,
It's a cultural hollow. We need you to change the letters in that one. But I mean, is that what you're saying? It's about community rules,
no.
intervention.
It's
what
about family and community involvement.
All right, what happens if the intervention doesn't work?
Or what if you're
What do you do then?
You got to stop the threat.
So you're saying put him down.
I'm not saying kill him,
Cousin Tommy,
but
he don't need them knees. Really?
yes.
Let me see. I'm pretty sure I saw that rule in Deuteronomy 9.
Look,
That's why he's back. That's why he's back.
look. If it comes down to me not trusting you because you're acting really weird and you just came home
By
with,
my standards.
with 3 shotguns, that's pretty weird for James. And I'm going to say, dude,
But that's
why do you
trust-
need these firearms?
But that's trusting that you know me that well. There
Right.
are a lot of people in this dynamic that people don't know that well.
Bullshit. Every time this goes down, they find
Somebody,
who
But-
knew the shooter that well.
But doesn't somebody always say that kind of thing after those any kind of like?
Right.
It's like
he was a quiet young man.
he was a quiet
All right,
guy,
now
or
let me
somehow
challenge
I
you.
didn't.
Let me ask you this, because
All
you
right.
have young men, you have sons
Yeah,
of what 18, 15, what?
yeah. I got 19, 17.
All right, so
yeah.
all right, young men of that age are fucked up. One day to the next, they have different opinions because that's what we were when we were that age. All right. Several of the shootings that we've talked that have happened, we're not going to talk about individual shootings
No.
because it's irrelevant because we know shootings are shootings. But several of the shootings that have been in the news in the last several years have been taking place by young men the age of your sons.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything when you see a child developing from puberty on up to adulthood, there's really not a lot of stuff that's outside of what you can expect other than just being just extreme. If they stay within the confines of what we think, all right, they're quiet, they stay in their room a whole lot, they're doing this, they're on the computer a whole lot, there's not a lot of stuff that stands out in that.
Not in that, but if you look at things that have happened recently, you've got people that literally were expelled from school for a hit list and rape list.
All right, at that point it becomes,
That's
it's not just parents in that regard.
you're done at that point. You
I mean,
literally made a list of people that you want to kill or that you want to rape. That is a felony, at least. I mean,
If
Yeah.
nothing else is terroristic threatening.
yeah, you have a documented
But as
history
a
at that
parent-
point and nothing.
But yeah,
is
that's
done.
not necessarily the family and acquaintances getting
But
involved
because
in that way, but,
that's what
yeah.
we're speaking
Yeah.
to is root saying that the community, the people
Well-
that are the closest to them
Well, you
should
gotta figure out
intercede.
got
What I
them
would
to that
what I would
point.
say is that I think you'll find that too, that in a fair number of those cases, those people who are the friends, family, acquaintances are not actually equipped to deal with that in the first place. Like
Fair.
there's a good chance that
Well-
that there's a reason they got to that place, and it
and-
is their friends, family, and acquaintances.
That's why I say holding those friends, family, and acquaintances
accountable.
accountable.
All right, let's just
But-
say they weren't accountable. There's a shooting. What do you do to Aunt Jenny then? I mean, the shooting's already fucking take place.
Accomplice.
We're not fixing something at that point. We're dealing with the repercussions of what happened.
She's an accomplice.
All right,
She's
good.
accomplished a murder.
We put Aunt Jenny in jail. Those people are still dead.
True.
We've not fixed anything. We've legislated against something.
We're not-
Does Aunt Jenny have a lineage of crazy fuckers?
Well,
Probably not.
that's for us genealogists to find out. You might be surprised. But
Genealogists go to death. We're not worried about that people.
Yeah. So that, I mean,
You would
this
be more
this
interested
this sounds a
in that.
lot like the tribal crimes of the father kind of a thing.
no.
And-
Because if Aunt Jenny's dad was the mass shooter, Aunt Jenny's not responsible for her dad if he's already.
Oh,
done it
because that
and-
doesn't count?
No, he's already dead and gone. Aunt Jenny has grown up long after he was the mass shooter. She isn't responsible for his former actions when she was yay big, when she was a baby.
Right.
She is responsible for her nephew.
Why? Have you met my family? I mean, my God, I do not want to be responsible
and see,
for
I
those
go
sons
at
of
I
bitches.
go at it from the other side, which is kind of like I might be doing something totally normal. My family totally may think I'm crazy.
Well, think you're batshit crazy.
That's true.
And honestly, my family probably should.
But you're not. You're
No,
just
no.
fucked up.
But
There's a
here's the
difference.
difference is, you're talking about responsibility of family. My family don't fucking know me other than my dad. My family has not seen me in 3 years.
But you're
Because, you know what? I posted something on Facebook. Oh my God, let's call down the thunder. That doesn't work.
sure it does, because your family transcends blood.
Have you seen my Facebook page?
Your family transcends blood. You said it yourself.
No, I'm just saying that they don't know me because you're assuming that they're family.
Alex does. I do.
But I'm saying my family have the right
Mhm.
to do that. They don't know me. Because they're my family, they have not seen me in forever. You have.
If you start getting super weird and go out and
I like you said super. It's about levels of weirdness for me.
Not weird like you are now.
I mean,
but really weird.
No, Caleb would think maybe I'm really weird. You may think that's James.
That's James.
Alice is going, you have no idea what that man can do.
he's on his best behavior.
Oh my
You're
goodness.
on level
Oh, my
one
goodness.
right now. This is just level one.
Put the phones down, bitches. He ain't even started yet. That's what I'm saying is it's different levels of engagement, understanding, and responsibility.
But so long as we continue down this road of throwing it to a broken justice system,
I don't like you doing that motion.
Trying to get my steps in. Trying to get my steps in for
He's
the
trying to
day.
get steps in.
yeah,
I don't like it.
so
At
long
least
as
it's
we
not doing it
continue
under the
throwing-
table.
throwing the shooters into this broken justice system where basically they go into criminal life 101 college.
Right.
There is no solution, and the butcher's bill is just going to grow.
All right, so-
we have to start holding other people accountable who had an opportunity to prevent this from happening before it
But
did.
my issue is this, is that accountability after the fact hasn't fixed nothing.
because
because there is-
there hasn't been
there
for
are
70 years.
There are still
Longer than
kids dead because Aunt Jenny.
That doesn't change no matter what what law you change or anything like that.
Well, all right,
Those
I'm
people
sa-
are still dead.
I'm
It
not
doesn't
trying
matter
to-
what you change after the fact.
Again, just speaking to what you said is self-policing,
right.
militia policing.
But what,
You don't mean I want to talk about that, but that's what it is.
okay, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Caleb laughed.
Oh.
I don't like when he laughs at me.
Oh.
It makes me feel sad.
Over time, when the rest of these nutballs start seeing entire families going to prison,
He keeps speaking of nutballs.
when they start sending entire extended families to prison because they had the opportunity to stop this and they didn't, people are going to start saying, "Yo, fucker, put down the AR or I'm going to take it."
All right, so I think that what you said right there was very valid, is this is not a cause and effect solution. It takes years
Right.
to make this, anything we're going to talk about probably is going to take
There's
years.
not one thing
Right.
that you could change today
Right.
that will fix anything.
Alex?
It's going to take time.
Yeah,
Go ahead and check out, Alex. It's okay.
I'm not checked out. I'm
Well,
listening.
anytime I see the forehead, I know that Alex is out. All right. So, anything to add from your perspective?
Just the only time that the law should be involved is cleaning up the mess.
That's all they're involved in now.
That's all they're
they are
involved in
cleanup
now.
crew.
There's
I think we can do better than that.
I think it's fair. I think we can do better than
I
that.
think we could, but
the
what
more
are
that
they
we
now?
keep this solution, if you will,
No,
in
Alex
the
is
family.
Alex is just saying that we can do better as a group than what you just did.
Okay, that's all right. Y'all be wrong. I'm fine.
All right. So, Alex, lay down the gauntlet. You're up next. What's your solution? So Root, again, to surmise.
Family accountability.
Family accountability.
It's all about accountability,
Yep.
right?
At the
Not
at
just
the
family.
level,
Workplace, friends, family.
family community. Yep.
Anybody that's involved with that shooter or that person that of interest
that
is accountable.
that
Fair?
had the opportunity to prevent it.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
I will add real quick. You said that it's not the holler anymore. We're not, in that village setting anymore. But we are more connected now as a people than we ever have been as a human race.
But it is
period.
not genuine connections.
I would disagree.
Oh, horseshit. I will tell you
Some
what,
of
you
them
want to
are.
look at my Facebook profile that has nothing to do with who I am.
But
No, neither does mine. But
Right,
the groups I'm
because
in
it's not
does.
genuine.
But the groups that I'm into,
All right, we're drilling down there.
but overall,
I'm saying
but it's still
overall,
social media.
I'm saying overall, we are more connected now as a human race than we ever have been.
Absolutely.
I disagree. I don't know the names of the neighbors next to me,
Okay, maybe they don't want to be.
and they
in
don't
touch
know
with
my name.
anybody. Okay.
Because when I was a kid, unlike Caleb, that was a kid 3 days
Yes.
ago. But when I was a kid, we knew everybody up and down the road.
Mhm.
We walked, we talked, we hung out, we did those things. We don't do that anymore.
Right.
Period.
I'm not sure how that changes what Caleb said.
All right, if
We
you're
don't
talking
have to-
about neighborhood responsibility,
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
know
no.
my neighbors.
Community.
What is community?
Does every
Interpersonal
random
relationships.
shooter have a community? I mean, besides online.
All right. Root,
Uh,
let me just ask you.
Besides the other
That's
nut
actually
jobs
dumb.
that got them to do what they
Y-
did. To
yeah.
begin with.
All right, so Root, let me ask you. In your neighborhood, you live in a subdivision just like I do. Do your neighbors know you? Know you?
2 of them.
Al, how many?
However many other families live there.
Exactly. You can't legislate from community if they
But
don't know
that's-
people.
that's
you
not-
stay in your
but that's
fucking
not my
basement.
community.
You don't have a basement, but you stay in the basement.
Everybody has to have a buddy.
But
Yeah, a tornado buddy.
my,
Have you found your tornado buddy?
my neighborhood is not my community. It's not. You guys are my community. You don't live in my same neighborhood.
I do not want to be responsible for your ass. Because you have scared me 3 times already this evening.
I've got folks that I would consider friends from Taiwan to Brazil.
But they don't know what you're doing tomorrow.
They do.
That's what I'm saying. When you're talking
But they
about
do.
when you're talking about what you were referring to, and I get it, I do. When you were talking about people that see you day in and day out,
Mhm.
and they see a pattern, I have not seen you since the last time we recorded a podcast.
Right.
That's been what,
No,
2
that's
weeks?
bullshit. I showed up down at your office the other day.
But I'm saying we don't see each other every day.
True.
So you could have bought them out,
But
and I would not have even known it.
so therefore you wouldn't have had the opportunity to stop it.
Exactly.
So
you
you're
go
in the
and shoot
corner,
him like,
so what's the
But
problem?
someone else in his community that you're saying, well, that's his neighborhood. Well, no. What he's saying is he may play online games on a daily basis. That's his community. Those people may talk to him on a daily
so
basis.
we're
or
actually
something
going
like
to
that.
prosecute. If
Well,
Root
it would be
no,
really
no,
hard.
no,
Oh,
no, 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 no.
I want to hear this.
If Root does a mass shooting, we're going to prosecute everybody in this room, everybody in his office, everybody in his online gaming community, everybody in his fucking neighborhood. Really? Is that how this works?
Prosecute or investigate? 'Cause
No matter.
I would go
Do
with
we have the
investigate.
I would go with
manpower to
investigate.
investigate all of that?
Oh yes. Fuck yes.
You think that when it happens now, they don't investigate every single interaction that individual had with anyone
Yes,
and
of
everyone?
course.
Alex,
Here-
save my ass.
Here's my concern with that too. It's not just the immediate of like who gets prosecuted and stuff like that. It's the cultural effect of that kind of thing.
which is actually what I'm going for.
Well, I get that. I mean, I get that you're looking for the individual cultural effect. But when you turn everybody into a watcher of everybody, it turns into a Stasi.
Yep.
I'm not sure we're not there already, but I take your point.
So you get into the lives of others and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I better go report on this person because if I don't, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
And that just has an escalation kind of effect. I mean, now it's kind of like,
Which
you
is
know,
the opposite
that
kind of
guy
government
looked
that
at me
you like.
funny across the street. I better report him to my local block leader.
Right. And you're talking about a litigious society anyway.
Everybody spies on everybody.
Everybody is reporting, writing a letter, and all that sort of shit. Do we really?
But-
the people in this room. Do we really want our neighbors paying that much attention to what we're doing? Because I will tell you what. I know you. I fucking know you, and I'm getting to know you. We don't want people watching what we're doing.
Time out. So I think the disconnect here though is that you keep thinking proximity equals community. So how close someone is to you physically means they're part of your community. They may not be. Like you said, he knows 2 of his neighbors. I know a handful of mine, but I have a much larger community outside of the people that are physically close to me.
But are all those people subjective to your behavior and be responsible for what you fucking do?
Yes,
I
that's
don't
already
want to
been
do that because otherwise I don't want to make friends.
But-
Because I have some fucked up friends.
But-
Look at this room. Just look at you all. You all are fucked up because that's what makes life interesting.
Yeah. But what you just said has already been proven to be the case. People encouraging others on social media to commit suicide, they commit suicide. Those people are charged with murder.
That's an extreme, though.
This
I mean,
isn't-
I'm not telling you fuckers to commit suicide.
No,
I'm telling you
you're
to get out
not.
of the fucking house.
But-
I just need you not to be here right now.
But if I came in here ranting and raving about going out to the Walmart and shooting up a bunch of people, and then you say, "Oh, no balls if you don't,"
No. All right, really, we can't make examples of extremes.
the whole thing is an extreme.
No, I don't know that people have seen that level of obviousness when somebody is getting ready to take that next step. I really don't know if I've heard that.
Do you know the number of times that? Okay, so I'm going to harken back to my cult days.
I love when Alex harkens. We have not heard the word harken since the last time he said the word harken.
You're welcome.
We made up a bunch of multi-syllable words. We ain't heard that one in a spell.
That's just 2 right there.
I know, right? But it hits home.
I know, right? Look at them socks.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, when you the number of times, okay, so somebody does something against the church, right? And the church says, "Oh, you're condemned. Nobody's allowed to talk to you," all that kind of stuff. The number of times after that I would hear people say, like, "Well, you know, I always knew that about them," you know, kind of thing like that. People saying that about, like, the shooter, I mean, obviously, they don't want to think, "Oh, yeah, I thought that guy was totally fine till yesterday,"
Yeah.
right? They want to be like, "I was smarter than that, just nobody else believed me," right?
Well, it's the same thing as figuring out what the end of the movie is before the movie ends. Well, I saw that coming an hour ago. Did you? You didn't mention anything to it. You're right. I think that people claim attachment and knowledge that they don't have.
Okay.
Or at least it's overstated. It's probably overstated.
Yeah.
Except for in the documented cases where you have law enforcement involvement.
That and that is a different case, and I'm going to get to that
Yeah.
one.
All right, so speaking of that, Alex, your turn.
All right,
What's your solution?
so what's my solution? First of all,
Oh, first of all, it's a multi-parter, folks.
Did you hear him go up an octave?
Yeah.
first of all, I know this one is so
That's
Wow.
a sentence.
Wow.
You just did a root.
Oh my
yeah.
God. I'm
Isn't it
free.
Isn't it fun when you hear it?
It is. It is. Oh, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
A lot of words,
Is that like
nothing.
a broken curse or something? Is
Maybe.
I probably should have thought better on how to start this sentence.
That is the understatement of everything. Maybe I should have thought more. Oh, how
don't
that
really
may
do that over
sound.
here.
to
Oh wait,
somebody,
I was
not
supposed to
maybe
do
me.
research for this podcast. So I'll just start out by saying that I have pretty mixed feelings about not the Second Amendment, but the interpretation of the Second Amendment. So when it comes to the idea that the freedom to have guns, our nation has a long storied history with having guns available and stuff like that. Some of the intents, I think, are totally, have either changed. History and technology has changed that. And then as has our cultural norms and expectations about what that means. So I'll just say up front that I don't think the Second Amendment means that every individual has the right to have a gun. That is, in my eyes, a relatively new interpretation of it, primarily driven by the NRA. And that.
Boy, he is throwing a lot of shots across the bow.
I'm gonna on
Let's
this thing.
talk about guns.
But it gets around to where I finally land.
I think speaking of your criteria,
Yeah.
or your preconceived idea,
Yeah.
right? I think that's fair.
Yeah. That said, I mean, I think there are plenty of actually valid reasons to have guns, and I am not a person who does not own guns, right? I do own guns. Yeah, I spoke in a double negative.
How is that? Is that a double negative in there?
I think about 4.
I threw a double negative that turned into a positive. So yeah, so I actually own multiple guns, and some of that is family heritage, some of that is personal defense, and some of it is sporting. So all of those I actually see as valid reasons to have a gun. That said, I do raise the question as to, in general, about whether or not kind of our recent interpretations of it are really like based in the historical intent of it. So, that said,
and just for the record, I'm going to leave that alone.
I'm not. I have a question.
I have no opinion on any of this. Right?
Oh, bullshit.
I can make one up.
But we're still in the midst of his solution. I think we're just working up to
and it's very possible that actually none of that really like has to drive what my kind of.
I love Alex. It's very possible that none of that happens to matter.
But I said it anyway.
But I'm going to go ahead and preamble this because I don't know what I'm supposed to say right now.
Well, no.
I'm wearing a V-neck T-shirt. I am Simon Cowell. The V-neck T-shirt has replaced the scarf.
So,
And for that, Root is sad. All right,
so
please go ahead.
it's preempting a bit of the justification for what I'm about to say is at least one part of my solution. So one part of the solution is simply that I think our limitations on how people get guns are severely under powerful. That's, again, not to say that everyone shouldn't have the right to the possibility of owning a gun. But clearly, we have people who have guns who are batshit crazy and want to kill people. As you just said...
Root?
What?
I'm sorry, I thought you were referring to you.
as Root just said, people know that ahead of time. There
No.
are people who know that ahead of time. There are ways to find that out. We have ways to find that kind of thing out before somebody gets a pilot's license.
Mm-hmm.
We put them through the rigors to make sure that they actually are somebody who, given a plane, is not going to fly it into a building.
Yep.
Right? So how does that happen? It happens through background checks, training, testing, that kind of thing.
And a long, arduous process.
And
for flight.
an arduous
Yeah.
process but then once you have gone through that process, not only do you now have the right, but you are actually far more equipped to actually use that device effectively.
That's scary too.
Well,
That you can use that device effectively.
well, but part of that is also making sure that when you use it, you're going to use it effectively in a good manner, right? I mean,
Responsibly.
at least most of the time, right? I mean, there's a far more likelihood that if I give a plane to somebody who just got out of an asylum,
Caleb is losing it.
I love it.
You
this.
I
lost
love
your
it.
mind earlier, so I'm
I
losing mine now.
love this about Caleb.
I'm loving watching it too.
Right?
now,
All right, let him finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this makes me want to put another camera.
We haven't spoken to the camera. So
That's why I gave you space.
Okay.
So, and I know I'm touching like political nerves here that are, but
It's all good.
I actually do think there's something at the heart of this is what I'm saying is that like, you may say that our system right now for it is broken, but our system is so broken that it's completely ineffectual.
True.
I'm talking about actually effective, regulation, but no less so than we give regulation on other things that even are protected by the Constitution, right?
Okay.
Like which one? Yeah.
Oh, both those guys leaned in.
I knew that was going to
I'm
come
over
in.
going, okay, I haven't pooped today.
So what other personal property items are mentioned in the Constitution that require that kind of arduous process?
Your body.
That's valid.
Like
Which
how?
part? Yeah.
Huh?
How? Where?
Abortion.
Yeah.
No. Well, no. That's a SCOTUS ruling.
And yet somehow everybody still thinks it's up for question.
Yep.
I'm just raising a question here.
Yeah. Well, that's what we did. We raised the question first.
Yeah, but now that's an interesting take that goes down a
All right,
rabbit hole.
stop.
No.
You can't answer a question with a
No,
question.
because it's interesting that I bit on this because I
You do that all the time.
hate
That's not interesting.
Woodrow Wilson with the passion of a thousand burning suns. I cannot stand the man or his progressive bullshit.
This is where we let him talk about history,
and
and then we reel him back in.
it was the Wilsonian era
No one knows what that means.
that changed all this jurisprudence bullshit. Prior to that, it was about the law. Simply how the laws were written. Did you violate the law? Yes or no. Post-Wilson, it became about case law. So a case
All right, bring it in.
is judged on a law. The case itself changes the law. Now
An
we judge
interpretation.
everything by the case.
An interpretation.
Which
How the
is-
last case was
Which is the
adjudicated.
situation with Roe v.Ade.
Yeah.
All right, we're not talking about
I
abortion.
understand.
We're not.
I'm just apologizing for biting on that.
All right, well,
Well, the only reason,
Why I felt it.
the only reason I jumped in
that's
is
what
'cause-
Alex does.
I know he's good at it.
He's a good fisherman.
So
He
the
put
reason
it out there. He saw that big fat catfish come up there, and he goes, "Oh, hells yeah!
I got him.
Roe v. Wade, boom!"
So the reason I jumped in though
Wilsonian
was
progressivism.
because the example you compared it to was a pilot's license, right? Privilege, not right. Driver's license, privilege, not right.
I'm not necessarily making a distinction between those. What I am saying is that we put limitations, or at least we put limitations and societal norms around things that
agree.
that allow us to put limitations on that. I mean, felons are not allowed to have guns, right?
True.
Or vote,
Right?
yeah.
True.
And they can't vote. And they can't do
Which
a lot
is
of
also
things.
a constitutional right,
Right.
right? So we do have
Valid point.
places where we put limitations on
They do,
things.
but that's
when it-
already a limitation.
when
That's
when
what
it
we're
when
saying.
it makes a sense, right? So we can limit a right even
Mm-hmm.
if it makes sense to.
But would you apply any of those same limits to free speech, freedom of religion,
Yeah.
or
You would?
I would have.
Well, I mean,
free
we
speech.
we have the I mean, we do have the
Classic
classic
fire
of
in the
it
theater.
does not allow you to yell
Yell
fire
fire
right?
in
You
a
can't
theater,
yell fire in
right?
a movie theater. But okay, so let's say I'm posting a bunch of hate speech online. Should that be allowed?
Sure.
It should be.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
But
That can incite violence, though.
no, but
Well,
is it?
everything can incite
But
violence.
it can.
Because you took away chicken from Popeyes.
Yeah.
Can incite violence.
No, you didn't take it away. They ran out.
Oh, they ran
Yeah,
it. Oh,
but we're
because
but
there's
we're
a shortage of
but,
fucking
but,
chicken.
but we're not talking about that, right? I mean, even if you take it from the approach of saying like you have the right to have a gun until you don't, right? But
So
as
you
part
prove
of
that you're not capable of.
you've proven
of
you've
using
proven
that right.
even if that
there's your-
proof is the fact that as part of our background check we found out that 15 of your friends think that you're crazy, right?
Okay.
So
Back rail? Bow rail? Bow
Can
rail?
that also
He's slow,
remove
too.
your right to vote and your right to free speech
He's
All right,
and your
but
right
wait
to
a minute.
practice your own
It's the
religion?
same thing. It's the same thing as a driver's license.
No,
No, it is because
No.
you've got a driver's license.
which is a
And then-
privilege, not a right.
All right, again, but
right,
through your
we're-
behavior,
we're-
you've lost the option to have that driver's license. because you've not shown yourself to be responsible enough. And there are different levels of that responsibility, right? If you run a stoplight, that's different than if you're going 120 in a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. There's a different level of punishment.
And now, but you're operating a vehicle in public. What I do in my own home with any type
With
of
a
weapon,
gun?
So are you willing to say
It's
that a
not
person
anybody's
cannot carry a
business.
gun outside their home?
I'm not. I'm just saying.
Well,
that's
but I'm
the
saying if that's what
difference
you're gonna, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm totally. You want to keep a gun in your home? Fine. You're not going to be out shooting a whole group of people in a theater or
park.
whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Or a garage.
Right. Or a basement.
Yeah.
And again,
there. James is getting scared.
I'm in a corner. I am in a corner. All right, Alex, please continue.
so anyway, I mean, quite honestly, I actually don't think that's the biggest single solution to it. It is a mitigation, and let me say from the start, I think everything we do is a mitigation.
Well, excuse me, just roll that back and tell me what that solution is, because we went down about 6 different rabbit holes there and missed it.
It was Caleb's fault.
So
It was.
the
He's
only
young and impressionable.
the primary solution portion of that is just limiting the ease with which people who are crazy get guns.
So you're talking about
Okay.
background check and
so-
psychological test, whatever.
Meaningful regulation on.
Would you push that to registration?
Would I push it to individual? Define what you
So
mean.
a license, or you are a registered gun owner. The federal government knows
Well-
what you have, how many, where they are, all of those.
That's already on the books.
To an extent, but
if,
not.
If
yeah.
I go down to Bud's,
Yeah.
buy a new pistol, it has to be registered or it doesn't leave the property.
It's
Not
not quite a registration,
Not
yeah.
quite, and not in
It's-
Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They-
Right.
If
they-
you fill
they-
out the form and it says that this weapon was transferred to this individual, but whether or not you still have it or anything like
yeah,
that.
that's easy enough.
That's
to
right.
draw
And,
down.
and even that portion of it, my understanding is that
It's
they
after so
they destroy
long,
those within
yeah.
14 days, I think.
Yeah, it's after so long.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I mean I know individuals that
Good.
have transferred weapons, and the ATF showed up on their door literally like a year and a half later and said, "Hey, you owned this weapon at such
Oh.
and such time,
Maybe.
and that it was transferred into your name, and now it's been used in a crime, and they have to say when they sold it or how they
Right.
sold it or whatever
Yeah.
they did that left their name."
Well, yeah.
There are states that require a paper trail to that, and there are states that don't.
And speaking to that, I had a little cheap pistol stolen out of my truck. This was a couple of years ago here in Kentucky. It was it's been longer than that, say 5 years ago, and it was a good year and a half, 2 years later, when Frankfort Police came to me and said, "Hey, thank you for reporting this weapon stolen at the time, but we've recovered it." Now, did
You are a
that-
documented owner of this weapon at
Right.
some point in time.
right.
It's not a full-fledged
Now,
registration now,
The-
but it is.
was that because I reported the weapon stolen? Likely. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
That you gave them the information that would have led.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
now-
Most likely
That
in
makes
that
sense.
situation, yes. Now,
Yeah.
if it was used in some type of crime or something like that, then
Well, it
It
Well,
was.
then
They
if you're,
recovered it at that
if you're
point.
your
Yeah.
brother's keeper, you're responsible.
yeah, you should know who you.
I wasn't as
It's your fault for getting it stolen.
That's right.
Right. Well,
They took it out of the holler.
I don't know
Your
what-
ass is responsible.
They broke into a locked truck, so. But
It's
but,
a Chevy, though.
uh,
Really?
Is
I
it
mean,
locked?
At the time, it was a Ford.
how locked is it?
Well,
really?
that explains a lot anyway.
Oh, shut up. So
It's like you put stuff on the interstate when you drive that thing.
I take your point. I take your point about trying to. I understand your point about trying to make weapons.
Harder to get.
For the
Yes.
people that shouldn't have them.
Fair.
To begin
Well,
with.
But if it's harder for those folks, it's harder for everyone.
Yeah, it's just harder.
But
Well-
I'm also I'm saying it should actually be truly like you should have to demonstrate that you are a person who is capable of managing this.
So
right?
let's say Caleb.
As I've said again, I'm
with you.
Yeah. Let's say Caleb goes down to the gun shop, picks up a shiny new yeet cannon, and
It's the stupidest fucking name for a gun.
I want
Oh
one
my
so
God.
bad.
Focus!
Stupid.
Focus!
So
When I'm having to tell people to
You're
focus,
saying focus because you don't know what the hell we're talking
because
about.
I checked
We
out
are
an hour ago.
focused. We are focused.
we are focused, and I love it. I want one.
Oh God!
So-
Y'all want to just circle jerk?
Sweet
What do you want
I
to do?
want one so bad.
Might as well have a damn high point.
that-
Good lord.
It is a
Penis.
high point. It's a high point
Is it high
45.
point? Okay.
The
yeah.
word is penis that he wants so bad.
So Caleb goes through this arduous process that Alex outlines,
And his neighbors came together
and,
and had a kumbaya moment for Roots outline.
and so now Caleb has his very own yeet cannon a year and a half after he decided he wanted to buy it, because that's how long the process takes. Exaggerated, perhaps,
Yes.
but okay, 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is.
Maybe you start this process when you're 12.
Yeah, right. And by the time you're 21, then maybe.
Y'all are gonna love my explanations, my solution.
So I come to Caleb and say, dude, I love your pistol. I'll give you.
He likes the pistol.
I'll give
He
you,
likes the
I'll give you
pistol.
5 times what you paid for it. He says, okay. I give him cash. Now I've got a pistol. I didn't go through any of that. But at present, it's just property to him, and we've made a property.
He just became an associate who is now responsible for every action you take with it,
Right.
based
Yeah.
on
At that
your
point,
principle.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly right.
So and so begin. It's the damn family tree shit
He
that
shows
he
up.
is into.
He's willing to pay 5 times as much as I paid for a high point. I already know he's fucking crazy. I already know something's wrong. At that point, I'm like, nope, you are not getting this.
But you're
See,
but
that's
you're
what
but
I'm
you're
talking
but
about.
you're really broke that week. So.
Exactly.
He wants to buy another yeet cannon.
Now, so now part of the reason, I mean, now the reason I started this one out because I knew it would be controversial, but but the reality is, I mean, we got so many guns out there right now as it is.
Exactly.
This
Yes.
primarily becomes one of those generational over generational kinds of things where it's
Yeah.
kind of like you know
You phase it in.
once you phase it in, and once you know that like this crazy guy shouldn't have a gun, when he shows up with a gun, he's
There's
in
a problem.
trouble, right? That's a problem, right? So okay,
All
so that's actually I actually do have another
Oh Lord
item to go
Jesus!
on
How
to.
many layers
Before
does
we
he
get to
have
the
to
next
this?
one.
Okay.
Oh, it's
Mine's
Alex.
gonna be a couple too.
Alex
so-
has not been here in 9 months.
He's catching up.
And
I'm all
he's just
for
trying
him.
to layer shit. All right, so Lloyd actually suggested today that you should be asked every question that we're not available for because of your
answer them all.
absence.
You're gonna back edit
So
all the
what
episodes.
do you think about the Great Lebowski against who,
He can't even get the
Who-
damn
who-
name right. He didn't even get the damn
The
name
Big
right.
Lebowski fucker.
What was it?
It's not the Great Lebowski.
Jaws.
It's the Big
Against
Oh,
Jaws.
that's
Lebowski.
right, because if it was the Great Lebowski, it would have made it past the
And
quarterfinals.
also,
That's
if you
what it
knew the
was.
name of it, you would not be gay. Not that there's anything wrong
Not
with
that
that.
there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, so before you move on to your next thing, the big thing that I have is
Caleb has a pen and he is using it.
I think it's a weapon.
at this point, yeah. No. So, like you said early on, the interpretation deal. There are a lot of interpretations out there right now of the Second Amendment, and generally you could apply that to just about any amendment we
That's
have.
totally true. Yeah.
And so, like James said earlier, we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into the political debates and stuff. Let's just leave it at there are a lot of interpretations to that. You can look at it a lot of different ways. But-
Except for the one that I believe.
Right, which is wrong. We know. We've already established that that's the wrong one.
I
But
love this. It's like watching the pups grow up.
It is, isn't it?
Right?
what I do like about what you said is the background check system. I think the background check system is a great thing, and it is one of the few things in. Root's shaking his head. I know.
I am
Hear
too.
me out. Hear me out. I think it is one of the better things in the whole gun control idea that has been implemented in the last 30 or 40 years. Because, well, the problem with it, though, is that states and the federal government don't share information.
Which is a good thing, but please continue.
It could be
Libertarian,
better.
hush.
No, the problem is that you have people out there that have a documented history of mental health issues, that have a documented history of, whatever misdemeanor charges and things like that, domestic violence, things like that,
Right.
that get expunged off their records so fast or are never shared to begin with, and they end up with a gun because that information is not available in that system. And that information needs to be shared
What?
more freely.
And but it.
To take it, to take it out of the whole gun control idea, you have, just a few months ago, there was a CDL holder, right? So a semi-truck driver killed like 4 or 5 motorcyclists by plowing through a whole group of them up in like New Hampshire or something like that. I don't remember the exact
Bunch of
state.
Marines.
Bunch of Marines, exactly. So a bunch of military, or ex-military veterans plowed through an entire group of them and killed 4 or 5 of them under the influence. His license had already been revoked by Massachusetts, but that information was not shared between states, and nobody knew to take him off the road. He could have passed through a dozen way stations, checkpoints, anything that somebody could have said, you're not supposed to be driving this truck right now, and it didn't happen, and
Right.
now people have lost their lives because of it. So the background check system, to me, yes, it is more arduous than having to show my ID when I go vote, or being allowed to practice my free religion or my free speech or anything like that. But I'm okay with 5 minutes of filling out a form and the federal government saying, yep, his record's clean, and everything's okay to go from there. I don't like the 3-day waiting periods or anything like that, but if that information was more freely shared between the states and the federal government, and you had that information available for people that should not have guns, but also for people that are mistakenly put on that list. Because that happens. You have people that have never committed a crime in their entire life, that have never had
Oh,
any
put your
kind of
hand
issue,
down.
that they go in to exercise their free right,
I'm batshit crazy.
and no, that are completely safe.
I've not been tested.
Right, you haven't been tested, whatever.
I'm not.
But we all know that from the get-go. But they go in and they say, well, your name popped up on the list, and you can't buy this today. Well, okay, now what do they do?
Well, I think
There's no recourse for that.
I think
So
it's also
that system can be improved.
But,
No, I was,
Yeah.
I mean,
But I
there's
think
there's
that's
always
also
room for
relying
improvements
on
and
the
stuff
federal
like that.
government
Yeah.
to regulate something.
Well, relying on any level of government to
Right.
regulate something.
Right.
Reliance
Because
on
there's going to be
government's always
errors,
an
because
issue.
it's going to
There
be a
will be.
big algorithm.
And everybody assumes that the only way that you can pick up a firearm, I don't care if it's a 22 Jenkins semi-automatic or an MP5,
You're just showing off
is
I'm with him. I got
is
it.
now. I know,
going
but
to-
Alex and I are going,
okay.
I heard Jenkins. I played ball with the Jenkins in high school.
The cheapest piece of shit, lowest caliber pistol,
High point.
Jenkins.
Jenkins, trust me.
Yeah, I know.
Or-
It's Jenkins.
Yeah, or
I don't know nothing about nothing, but it's Jenkins.
or one of the world's leading light machine guns.
Yeah,
the
right.
MP5.
Right, exactly. That's what I have in my closet.
Is that you have to go to a firearm store to get it.
Mhm.
You don't. It's property.
So
Yeah,
Once
that's
somebody
that's
owns
that's
it,
Wait, wait,
that's why.
wait.
But that's why I
Sell
said
it like
that's
a
why I
that's what
say.
I think. I
All
think
right.
he's saying that there is a reasonable restriction there at that point.
Yeah.
And over
This
the
could
ju-
be a danger to society,
It's about
As a
obtaining
whole.
it, right?
so there is a reasonable
Is that
restriction.
your
in
solution?
It's
It's
both
about
about-
getting it.
it's that, and it is
Access
also
to it.
being found in possession, right? Like, I mean, if I have been found to be not trustworthy enough to have a firearm,
Well, we know you're.
Well, a convicted felon that
Then-
look at your socks.
is caught with a
Then-
weapon,
Yeah, look
that
at
is
the size.
another charge.
right. So that kind of thing. But I am obviously I'm saying, like, yes, background checks that are more stringent,
Mhm.
probably even including inquiry with your associates.
Absolutely.
Because, like you just said,
Yeah.
that is actually one of your best ways of finding out
It's
is
your best indicator.
is somebody not going to be
Is
trustworthy.
Alex
And-
and
and-
Root
They're
agreeing?
and
Okay, all right. Well, since that one clearly went nowhere.
The fact that you two are agreeing.
hey,
No, I think there's some common ground to be found there. But either way, as far as actual like mitigation solutions, again, like I say, I think all of these are going to be mitigations. There are plenty of ways to commit crimes in other ways besides guns and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right? So all of this is about mitigations on how do we actually deal with some lunatic attacking random people. And how do we, as those random people, actually do something about it?
return fire.
That's one solution. and I'm actually
Hey, Caleb, call the authorities.
Yeah, go ahead.
Root,
James is waving his red flag over here.
no, Root is over there, and he seems to be more aggressive than normal, which is scary as fuck.
So,
And,
so here's the irony: is Root and I are actually in pretty high agreement here.
See? That's what I'm talking
hey,
about.
Caleb, if you could call the authority on Root and Alex.
Because they're agreeing, so that's out of character.
The whole socks thing we won't mention, but
Just make sure we're in the same cell.
it
please.
seems concerning.
And I can't claim this kind of perspective here. I sent you guys an article by a guy named Sam Harris.
I didn't read.
Well,
It
That's a
at
good
all.
art. You should read it. Yeah.
Okay, I will try, but I don't like
I know you don't
reading.
read.
so he actually, I will tell you, he actually has a podcast episode where he not only reads it but also updates it with more current statistics and stuff like that. So you'll be able to do that one,
Well, there, you can just
whenever
listen to it.
you can just listen to it without reading.
I don't listen real well either.
Clearly.
I don't. What?
So anyway, his kind of the present what he presents is he reminds us of the fact that on September 12th, 2001, we all knew what the fuck we would do if somebody got up on our airplane and said, "Everybody just stand still. It's
With a
all going to be
box
okay."
cutter.
Yeah.
We knew what we were going to do. Like, we all knew at that moment that didn't pass anymore. Right? So-
And a lot of Americans demonstrated it in the months
and
following.
even at least one group on one of the planes,
Right,
right, and
93.
they showed us that at least that plane didn't take out another building,
Correct.
right? So the point being that, and I think this kind of goes back to what you're saying too, we have group responsibility.
Yes.
Part of that group responsibility is not the one guy pulling out his gun that he's got concealed, right? It's the entire crowd saying "fuck no,"
Right.
right? When somebody starts that kind of fight, everybody goes at that person hard. And,
When I was-
honestly, that takes training. I mean, that does
When I
not
was out-
happen accidentally.
When
We all knew it on September 12th about airplanes.
All right,
we
when
don't know it about
Fire.
a school.
When I
or
was
a
out in
building.
Arizona,
Or something,
when I was
yeah.
out in Arizona in state government out there, it's the only time I ever went through something like this. They did a workplace shooter type drill, right? And their perspective was get them.
Yeah.
It wasn't about hiding. It wasn't about like
Get your
protect.
scissors, get your chair, whatever.
Get them.
Yeah.
If you think you can take them down, take them. If you don't think you can take them down, it's fine to hide or run or whatever you feel like is safe for you.
Just get out of the way.
But
of the rest
overall,
of them.
fucking take them. And I'm like, all right. Because I've been in Kentucky my whole damn life, other than 5 years. And everything is all about, like, put something underneath the door, call this, do this, do this. Arizona, it was fucking take them. Just take them down. There is more of you than there are them.
Yeah,
And that's the perspective we had on September 12th,
right.
was take them, right? Box cutters, be damned, take them.
Whatever
And
it takes.
and somebody's going to get hurt in that process,
Yes.
but a whole lot less than otherwise.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly.
But in that same article, he talks about the reason on September 11th most people didn't have that reaction though is because you don't bring a fist to a knife fight and you don't bring a knife to a gunfight, right? So the reason why people have that reaction now, if somebody shows up with a knife and you have that person with a concealed carry or anything like that, that they draw their gun, you have an alternative to that solution. If you go one-on-one with somebody with a knife, you're going to get hurt. It's,
As an individual, as a
if
group,
you go 5-on-1 with somebody with a
Everybody's
knife,
gonna get cut.
somebody's going to get cut.
somebody
If
is.
not everybody.
However, if you
So-
don't, then 30 might.
And he hits on that in that article, though.
Yeah.
That's something that he talks about. September 12th, yes, everybody had the mindset, this isn't going to happen. We're not going
Right.
to let this happen. They have a box cutter. Screw this. We can take them. But with a gun, I don't think people have that same mentality.
I mean, I think there's some reasonable limitation to that, though, right? I mean,
is.
like he points out in that article too, a gun is not a
It's
it's
not
not
a phaser
magic.
array.
It's not magic, right?
Right.
It only has danger in the direction it's pointed,
Right.
and it has a limitation as to the number of rounds and that kind of thing,
I don't
right?
remember if it was
Like,
that article or another one I read, but they talked about attackers with a rifle versus attackers with a pistol. It's a whole lot easier for a group to take on an attacker with a rifle.
Sure.
Because you have something to grab onto.
You can grab the barrel.
You
Yeah.
have a leverage mechanism, essentially, at that point. I'm waving my hand around like an idiot. And you can't see it on the podcast, but...
I'm not going to lie. I enjoy it.
It's a common rookie mistake.
I enjoy it. He's
if
very
you tie my hands
animated.
down, if you tie my hands down, I can't talk, so it doesn't matter.
There'll be no tying. That's a different podcast.
What goes
Y'all
on
already
at
done
home,
that
we
one.
don't talk about here, man. We don't talk
So-
about that.
But I think that's something that he hits on in the article. It's a great article, and I'm glad you shared it and everything because it was a very interesting read. What was his name again?
Sam Harris. I'm sure we can put him in the show notes too.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so Alex, anything more?
So I'm going to raise an issue, and I'm actually going to kind of give it as a handoff because
Oh,
I
God,
think
he's on the drop.
not because I have some opinions about it, but I actually don't know that whether this is a great solution or not. But it is the one that we constantly hear from political leaders, both pro and con, which is actually increasing the amount of armed guards we have. I think the one thing I will say as kind of my perspective on it is that I think it can be effective if we have some sort of a guarantee that those armed guards are themselves actually truly skilled and well trained.
I have a solution.
And
All right,
that's great, and that's where I want to hand it.
Let's leave it there, and we're going to do like 2 minutes per person
Oh,
on
James,
armed
don't
guards.
time limit us. Come on.
No, because it's about, we've done time. We have not had our time yet, Caleb. But, so 2 minutes, Root.
For
go.
what?
Armed guards.
To armed guards, yes, no, maybe, what?
Public schools, only if they pass state police, some kind of state police program.
A certification.
A certification program by
Oh,
by the
I've had
state
a bunch of
police.
those.
Private schools can do whatever the fuck they want. They can have folks out there with them carrying M60s around. I don't give a shit. That private schools can do whatever they want. They're private on purpose. And anything involved with the government has to pass whatever government mandates they're involved with. That's why I don't deal with the government.
Which may be weak or may be strong. You never really
Right,
know.
right.
Yeah.
It could suck ass. It could be the best thing.
Depending on
since
who wrote
sliced
the bill
bread.
at the time. And,
Right.
Yeah.
But and again, that's why I'm not too high on government mandates because they're garbage.
All right, libertarian hush. Caleb.
All right. So this, I will throw some personal experience in here
Alex
too.
just had like
All
white
right.
drool or something. He actually had spittle. He had spittle.
how the libertarian doesn't get up and punch you.
So, no, do not challenge him. I'm in the corner. I can't get out. All right.
I'm saving my moment.
All right, Caleb.
All right. So the whole armed guards debate. I'm okay with the guards. It's the whole let's give the teachers guns and all that kind of stuff that I'm not a big
That's
proponent
scary
of.
as hell.
Because it is scary as hell because one, I have teachers in my family, some that have never held a gun in their entire life and know absolutely nothing about it. I'm like, I don't want to give you a gun and have you in charge of that. I have others that I know could handle themselves and do what they needed to do if the time came and things like that, that I'm okay with it and everything. But I still, in my mind, that is not their job.
So
That's
there's
not
probably
what
there's
it
probably a
should
huge
be.
difference in saying like you mandate that they have those as opposed to those who have gone through the same sort of
I
certification
still wouldn't
and
even
training.
put that. If you are a
that,
teacher in a school, that is not your job. That should not be
I
your
would
job.
What if you
100%
want it to
agree with
be?
you.
You are in the wrong profession then. If you want
I mean,
that
I
job, you
want
should go be a prison guard. or you
I want
should go
to
be
work
a-
in tech, but I also want to be a cyclist. I mean, you know,
None of those have guns.
I would.
But do you type at your computer on your bicycle? Like, is that?
I have
put it
tried.
past him, Caleb. Don't put it
But you
past
see what I'm
him.
saying?
No.
There are certain desires, there are certain goals that people set for
It's
themselves.
what about a hobby?
You know
It's
what?
nothing about a career.
And we
Can't
don't
mix those two.
and we don't have to
in a
be
lot of
we don't have to be
times.
too caught up on that. I'm just saying
No,
I'm just saying
I'm
like
just
I
saying,
think that there's a reasonable question to be said like if a teacher has actually gone through exactly the same certifications that security guard has and they've proven themselves to be ready to handle that kind of situation.
But I think
So,
what Caleb's point is this:
Is that a lot of times they're not.
should that be a requirement?
Oh,
It
absolutely
should
not.
be a
All right,
requirement.
so you're saying the
Absolutely
teacher
not.
that done that?
No, because
wait, you're saying the teacher that done that gets paid more than the teacher that didn't.
Not
necessarily.
That's the
Then-
amount
then
that the
why go
school's
through
paying
it?
them for.
That's up to them.
So
That
now
is,
That's
you
a
have
personal-
1 out of every 10 teacher has a damn gun at
They're-
school.
they're-
I think we're in
hair.
the weeds. I think we're in the weeds.
No. All right. So armed guards.
I haven't even got to guards yet. I'm still talking about teachers.
No.
Yeah, time out.
Why do you have your arm up?
Because I'm trying to get you to shut the fuck up.
Put your damn arm down. This is not what this is.
we're talking about schools. He thinks he's in school.
My God, who are you? Libertarian put his fucking arm up.
I got to disagree with Caleb there, and he's laughing at my hair again.
No, it's just everything. It's the
Because
t-shirt and it's the hair.
if teachers are comfortable with going through the training process, the more power to them. But I do believe that a teacher's first role in this situation is protecting the kids in their classroom.
Is that not
If
what?
something were happening, yes. But on a normal day to day, their job is to educate children.
Amen.
With an
Amen.
AK-47 on their hip?
But
Because they had a class. Come on! This makes no sense to anyone.
an AK? Of course it doesn't.
No, I'm saying
A
that
45?
I don't want a damn teacher in my kid's classroom armed.
I know
Ever.
the majority of the stories that I hear from my family members anymore with the way kids act in school, I don't want any of them armed.
No!
Because I know that the
Brothers,
kids,
no.
because, right, there's
That's-
more of us than
It's
there
like
are
a
of them.
postal worker.
We can
Let's
take
give
over.
them a gun. Because they're not stressed out enough.
But their weapon doesn't have to be a firearm.
But if they
What, a club? I can only take out 7 of them.
Have you ever watched a Kali fighter?
Have you ever been to a fucking classroom? You want to kill them all by the 45th minute. That's it. You want to kill them all.
do they have that?
That's the other thing is you have teachers that you don't know their mental
Have
background.
they been
may
through my
snap.
background checks?
No, exactly.
Yeah. Have they been through the background check?
Actually, in
All right.
Kentucky, they
All
probably
right,
have.
so
Out of the
teacher, a
weeds.
little bit of a weed.
Okay, out of the weeds. Armed guards.
Although you got me fired up, I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Personal experience. You go outside of the United States. You go into France.
You mean where the Second Amendment doesn't apply?
Exactly, where the Second Amendment doesn't apply. But let's say you go to France and you go visit their big antenna.
I don't wanna go
out
there.
in the middle of the field
Big
somewhere.
antenna?
Right, the
What?
Eiffel Tower, right? It's an
Oh, that
antenna,
one. That one.
right?
Oh, he got you.
Yeah.
He did.
He
you-
got you.
You walk through that area.
Although I would hesitate to call
You
Paris
see
an open field.
armed military personnel patrolling.
Well, of course.
You
They
walk
live in a
through-
dictatorship.
You walk through their airports. You see armed military personnel patrolling. But they're not threatening in any way. They're literally just walking through just like anybody else. But they're there, they are present, and they are seen. That's the thing.
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is something you don't see here in the US.
No,
and,
because we
and
don't
so
live in
the
a
whole
dictatorship.
training aspect of you said, are they trained? Are they certified? Have they been through whatever state police or whatever program or anything like that? I would much rather see our National Guard personnel or our
No, you wouldn't.
well,
You wouldn't.
but they have specific training, right? Versus
More so
the
than Joe Schmo at Kroger.
exactly,
Not much.
or that hit up. I don't even know if this is a real company or not, but Ameritech Security or whatever, and they got hired.
It
on
sounds
and
like
they-
one, but it's not.
Probably.
It's
I don't
not.
know, but anyway.
I think they provide like carpet,
okay, so
rugs. I think
flood
it's
insurance,
Ameritech.
whatever. So, Joe Schmo that walks off the street and says, "I want to be a security guard today," or "I want to work for the armored truck that delivers money to the bank," or whatever. Those military personnel, they have that training, they have that experience that you go to Washington, D.C., right? You go walk around the
They also have a higher
Monument.
level of responsibility.
Exactly. You walk around the Jefferson Memorial, anything like that. You don't see any kind of security presence like that. And that is one thing that I do like about the U.S. is that you don't feel like you need that 99% of the time. But
Hush your
if
whore
you're
mouth,
talking-
libertarian.
If you're talking about his scenario of should we have armed guards? We have armed guards that protect our government. We have armed guards that protect our banks. We have armed guards
President.
that protect our president, our celebrities, anybody and everybody that can afford one, essentially. We
We have armed guards that protect your vegetables.
Exactly.
At
You
Whole
know, armed
Foods.
guard that-
I don't like vegetables that much. This
should
body
you
is
not
built on
apply
carbs.
that to children?
All right.
I mean,
All right, so
is that not?
to piggyback on Caleb's point, on the armed guard debate, I think armed guards are absolutely asinine. They're the first two targets in any place you go. If you're talking about an
They're
armed
also
guard,
the first responders.
it's my turn. It is my turn. It's about turn.
Well, if your turn is wrong, then somebody needs to say something.
So I'm just saying, when I was in high school back in the day, Root and I are the same age. My school turned to armed guards. They had a guard at the
Where the fuck did you go to school?
Franklin County.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they were at the metal detectors. All right,
See,
so it's
in Henry
like
Clay, we didn't have metal detectors in Lexington.
because you were in the fucking hood, and that's just expected. It's
Nobody-
all about even playing
nobody
ground for you
questioned
fuckers up there. But what I'm saying
Henry
is,
Clay was the hood in the
what I'm
80s
saying
in
is this: if
Lexington,
we go
that's
to the
right.
courthouse in Franklin County right now, there are armed guards at the metal detectors. Those are the first two bitches. That's all they are. That is that's us saying there are armed guards at the courthouse. Those guys have not been young since 1945.
So
That's the last time.
Yeah. So I will say, actually, I mean, the proposal or the idea to have that kind of thing presents at the very beginning a realistic, a real expense.
It's not going to
right?
happen. It's not going to
Well,
happen.
but that's the thing. That's if we're willing to invest in it. If
You
we're
go
not,
to the-
if we're not willing to invest in it, yeah, that's what you're going to get.
If you're
Is the
going
guy?
to the Capitol,
folks,
they are retired state troopers.
and they're entirely useless.
Yes, because they don't matter. They are the first two targets. That's it. No, we heard the story. We heard the story. I'm just
I'm not
saying.
sure what that is.
They
But-
are don't ask
Okay,
questions.
no. This becomes important because he doesn't know what it is.
Here we go.
Caleb,
I feel like they sell that online.
Everybody
They do.
settle up.
do you?
That's the section of Amazon you have to opt into. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the 18 and older,
None
right?
of this matters when you're listening to a podcast. They
Right.
can't see it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am holding up.
Lord.
It's something on my keychain.
Imagine a plug, but not for an electrical
It's-
socket.
It's like a butt plug.
It's called a Kubaton. Now,
Sounds exactly like what it would be called.
Which is Spanish for.
actually Japanese.
Okay.
But would you consider this a deadly weapon?
Yes!
In the right hands?
In the right hands, right. I have carried,
My rocks glass is a deadly weapon in the right hand.
especially if you spill it on
It's,
the fucking
it's totally going to be a
soundboard.
deadly weapon to that soundboard.
Shut it up! I'm saying if you're talking about deadly weapons, everything can be in the right hand. I saw a Steven Seagal movie. That he can put a straw through somebody's head.
As part of my job, I've
We
been
seem to be in the weeds.
in and out of my job for the past 20
I have not had my
about
turn.
20 years.
I haven't either.
I've been in and out of the governor's office more times than I can count carrying this keychain. One time was I stopped.
And you're saying you
And-
could
and
have
made
killed
to
him
surrender
25
this.
times.
Because one dude knew what he was talking about and made me surrender it, even though I've got a concealed carry permit. Now, he didn't know what I carry in my bag.
We do. And we're
but,
scared.
But he made me surrender my Kubaton. Those folks.
Don't point that Kubaton at me. You keep that damn Kubaton in your damn backpack.
We don't know where that's been.
I don't know what it's for, but I don't like it.
Okay, so I'll come back with you.
Oh,
See?
he's
Look at that.
Right,
Look at
is
that.
this a deadly weapon? It's called a key bar.
Of course it is.
Oh, no, all right, stop. We're in the weeds. Stop. All right, the fact that I have to rein this group in should concern you.
Okay.
I've
next
had that
show,
taken
next
from
show, we're going to call it the weeds, and we're going to go down all these.
We'll
rabbit
go in the
trails.
weeds. It's fine. All right, so, Caleb, are you done?
He didn't
armed
get
guards-
started.
Well, I haven't done my solutions yet, no. But armed guards,
Jesus.
internationally, you see it everywhere.
All right, so armed guards, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Armed guards
dear
for me is
God,
bullshit.
no.
As I mentioned, they are the first two targets. Normally they are an afterthought. Normally they have no money thrown at them. They are retirees. It doesn't matter. They are the first
Okay.
two bitches
So now
at the BDSM party.
But
that's it.
You're
That's
saying
it.
worst case scenario, there's no money thrown
You're
out.
going
We're
to the
saying
wrong
best
parties.
case scenario,
What?
you have
You're
highly
going to the
trained
wrong
individuals that are physically fit, that are of a good age to be a deterrent.
And how are we going to pay them?
Well, now you're getting into the weeds again. You're talking into details.
No,
We're just
I'm
talking in
talking about
general.
how many places have you been where you saw security that
mili-
was those people?
The military's already paid.
Retired SEALs, Special Forces dudes.
There's-
Retired.
There's
They're
17 of them
retired.
in the whole damn
Oh,
country.
come on. There's thousands of them.
Well, again,
Those,
are you comparing?
those guys all have international contracts.
Right.
Okay. All right.
They're not going to set up at the
They're
elementary
whatever
school.
it is.
Yeah, so and
So-
they're
so-
spending
so-
9
so
months out
again-
of the year away from their
so-
families. What if they're spending them
So-
at home with their families?
So again, this
Shut
comes
the
back
fuck
to
up.
how much are we actually willing to invest in it,
Right.
right?
Well,
We're looking for the
and
solutions
here's
that
the thing.
like
We're
are
not-
actually
I
realistic.
don't think we would have to invest that much
We're
in
not willing to invest shit in all this
it.
stuff.
Okay,
Because
these
it's
guys
about
are willing.
insurance.
These guys were willing to do the job. My point is, my
He started on purpose.
yes, I did. my issue with your shrugging them off, and actually I'm kind of agreeing with you at the same time.
Oh.
Is you put armed guards in a situation, airports, National Mall, that kind of thing. They are the first target.
Yes.
They are.
I don't care how highly trained they are, they cannot accommodate for every single threat.
You
No,
know
they
what?
can't.
Oh, no,
For
but
363 days, they were fine. And that 364th day, they got shot at.
I don't
And
think
nobody can be prepared for that.
I don't think we qualified here, but I mean I think we were kind of talking about primarily the lone shooter lunatic, right? We're not
Right.
talking about the armed assault by a small militia.
Right.
Right.
Right,
But,
so-
but even the single shooter guy, do you really
Okay.
think the
They're gonna be
congressional
ready.
baseball game,
That they're going to be ready.
the congressional baseball game had armed guards on site? They're the ones who
Secret
killed the
Service.
dude,
Who
and he's-
returned fire?
Who did return fire, and we still
After people had already gotten shot.
Okay.
after dude
So
got
why do
shot.
you
So
put
it's a
Again,
response.
again,
Do you put a
all
lock on your door?
mitigation. This is all mitigation.
All right,
This is
all right,
not
so, all right,
solving the
stop.
problem.
Caleb, your turn. What's your solution?
All right.
Wait, I got one more thing.
Nope.
But
My God, I'm the one reeling this in? Really? This podcast is doomed.
Okay.
Alex
So,
just picked up
one,
a pair of scissors and just want to point that out.
the whole armed guard deal. You put
No,
stop.
We're done.
Okay.
Move forward.
you put locks on your doors, right? They're a deterrent.
Shut your whore mouth.
No, James doesn't.
They're a deterrent.
I'll leave my front door open. It's open right now. All right, go.
All right.
It
So
makes him feel better.
all right.
If you want to walk in this group, have at it.
Yeah, come on down.
Alex will talk you down with his V-neck,
I'll break
and the
your
rest
fucking
of us
legs.
will just like T-bone you.
All right. So
that a metaphor?
you want to if you want hardcore solution, this doesn't happen again.
I did not ask that, but yes.
You go full-fledged 1984 Minority Report, Fahrenheit 451. You put cameras in everybody's house. You put microphones.
And I'm dead in a
everybody's
week.
house.
Stop.
dead in a
Exactly.
week, so-
Exactly. You have anybody.
What's
and
your
everyone-
solution?
Hang
not,
on.
not that one.
No,
not
no,
the
hang
scorch
on.
earth.
You have anybody and everybody that has any kind of subversive thought or speech or anything like that, and
Nice
they are
knowing you, boys.
immediately in prison or whatever. And you don't have it anymore. But there's a reason those novels and movies and stories are dystopias. They're not utopias, right? It doesn't work.
I don't
At the
know
moment.
difference.
Exactly.
I
Right.
don't know the difference between
but-
those two.
Well, learn some
W-
Latin.
was there a disc? All right. The fact that everybody high-fived him
Caleb is in. He is in.
means he will not be back. Because this is my house.
Okay.
All right,
So real full-fledged solution.
Caleb needs to be on this side of the table.
Like you said, that was the whole scorched earth. You want to stop this and it never happen again. That's the way it goes. But then you end up with full-fledged revolution and all kinds of crazy
Yeah,
nonsense.
bad shit
So-
starts happening then, boys.
Right, exactly. So, real world solutions, in my opinion, it starts with education, first and foremost, in a couple different aspects. Most of us all grew up in similar backgrounds, in the similar parts of Kentucky, things like that.
Well, Root grew up in the holler in Lexington.
Right, in Lexington.
Evidently.
On the east end of Lexington.
Yeah,
By the
because,
Tate's Creek Bridge,
yeah, exactly.
right outside of
No, that's
Harlan.
the south end of Lexington.
He
God
speaks
damn
to
it.
Eastern Kentucky, but that fucker has never left the damn suburbs of Lexington.
All right, so it starts with
Maybe a soap run. I don't know.
Well, I've been in some pretty sketchy parts of the world doing soap runs.
And I will say this is because you can go a lot of different ways with this, because I thought about it a lot today. I'm like, okay, how do you incorporate education into younger adults and things like that, into kids? Because a lot of us, we all grew up with either guns in the home,
Yep.
or dealt with guns on a regular basis. And it was not something, my entire life growing up, guns didn't come out unless we were going out to practice with the
Right.
targets, or something was going to die. That was
Right.
it. We went
Hunting.
hunting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Either a turkey was going to die, or a squirrel was going to die, or a rabbit was going to die, or a deer was going to die. And it put food on our table.
Right, right.
And that's part of that.
Not that you needed it. It's the fact you chose it.
Exactly.
Well-
But I understood from a young age the magnitude and the power behind that.
Right. When you bring
Because
that
I was
gun out,
taught
something's
that.
going to happen.
And there were ground rules, and there
Oh.
was a structure behind that.
I got a story for that.
No,
I got my ass whipped.
there's no time for stories.
We've had stories all fucking night.
I've had serious, not so much the ass whipping, because I feel like I did a good job as a kid, but
didn't.
but there were serious conversations at different times.
It's
of-
clear that
of
Caleb
where
was
I
a much
messed
better
up.
child than you.
No,
Oh, I
of
hope
where
he
I
was.
messed up and how to not do it again. So education in that respect, and it starts in the home.
It does.
It 100% starts in the home. You cannot depend on a school system, public or private, to raise your kids.
Amen.
You cannot.
Amen.
So it starts in the home. But on top of that, so you think, and when I say education, I'm not talking indoctrination, because what I felt like this would get compared to very quickly would be things like the DARE program, if any of you all remember that in
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
That was very much
You
an
mean-
That was
indoctrination
Tuesday.
program.
You mean that program that actually shows kids which drugs they should go try?
Exactly, right? But that was I feel like that was very much an indoctrination program of drugs are terrible, you can't ever do them, and you make
The
a
war on
promise
drugs
not
in
to
the
do
80s,
them, and
yeah.
the whole war on drugs and all that kind of stuff. So,
That was Bush.
right, you could take firearms to that extent, and I don't think you should, or weapons in general, or whatever. But education is important in the whole respect of how to deal with guns and how to react to them, things like that. Because you have a lot of instances of people that don't have a clue what they're doing, and they'll claim, well, it went off by accident. There's no such thing as an accident. It's
No.
negligence. You were not doing what you were supposed to be doing, and that is flat out negligence. But on top of that, I will also say education in the respect of there are a lot of programs that you look at over the years that have been cut out of schools, right? We have focused on a lot of the core competencies and things like that, which there's nothing wrong with that, but there are a lot of things that have been cut out of schools. How many people do you all know that do any kind of like apprenticeship program or anything like that anymore? That used to be standard. You hit 15, 16 years old, you were
Right.
an apprentice somewhere. You were learning a trade. You were doing
The-
something that you were interested in.
Right, and those kinds of things are still out there. But,
They are, but they're
but-
harder to get to
and-
than
and-
they used to be.
Right, they're harder because nobody talks about them.
Exactly. But my point with that is that a lot of these programs got cut out, and the individuals that you see that end up becoming our lone wolf or whatever you want to call them, domestic terrorist, whatever, it means the same thing in my opinion.
Yeah.
They did not have a place where they had an outlet or that they fit in. And I think a lot of that
I
happens
think there's a truth there.
when things like arts programs get cut and things like music programs get cut and things like marksmanship, things like art or shop programs get cut, things like what was home economics. I'll get hit in the mouth for saying that, but
That's true.
family and consumer sciences is the technical term for it. Not by you all, but
I think home ec is one of the most missing courses in
it is.
like
It's
our
an
in our
extremely
culture.
important
Absolutely.
one.
Not
And-
least of which is the like home finance part.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I have like people in my life that is their job. They teach that, and they fight that system every day to keep it from getting cut.
You know-
to keep it in the schools, to be able to teach those things, and those are the things that are getting cut. And you take people out of that. You take away that community that Root talked about earlier. You take away that semblance of belonging. And now they are out here on their own, and they get indoctrinated by crazy things on the internet or whatever, and it ends
Not
up
this
being a
show,
problem.
though, right?
Not that you're
Not-
right, not us.
not-
we don't
not
indoctrinate
us.
people.
No, not us.
This is not good for other people.
We
This show is
we
not-
can't stay on enough of a track to indoctrinate.
No,
Believe
no.
me.
There needs to be more focus than we're capable of. Yeah.
So
We need to be really clear. There's one evil, and you can fix it.
So,
we can't do that.
honestly, in my opinion, education is the big key. Is teaching kids one. You know, there are a lot of programs out there for safety and things like that. There are marksmanship programs that are tailored for schools to be able to teach
Local
this.
NRA programs
Right,
are awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of local programs. You know, you have the hunter education courses and things like that.
We both looked at each other and go,
You
fuck
can-
no.
No. Local NRA is radically different than
Than
national
Fed-
NRA.
yeah, the
Just
national.
like the VFW locally.
But
They're fucked up.
hey, you can hate on the NRA all you want as a lobbyist group and whatever, but
And
the
I
people that are on the opposite end of that spectrum are just as bad.
I
They are
agree.
they are lobbyists
All right,
just
but,
the same.
But to say that you
And-
can't like the extremist doesn't mean we can't like the extremist. I mean, all right,
What?
we recognize that the ones on our side is just as crazy, but we can't
I
say
don't
that
think
because
people do.
ours is crazy, yours can be crazy too.
Dude, I have railed against the national NRA for decades.
It's
I
been
hate
noted.
those people, but you get down to the local chapters, they're teaching folks firearm safety, how to hunt, tactical drills for these tactical situations that we're talking about tonight. The
And then kids in situations, you go over to your friend's house and they say, "Hey, my dad's got a gun over here in this drawer," and you tell them, "No, I
Just
don't
like
wanna
when I
touch
was
it,
in
or
the
I don't wanna look
podcast
at
a
it,"
few
or-
months ago, and somebody brought out a fucking gun. We're like,
You knew what to do.
I should probably call
I should
someone,
probably
but
run.
I'm in a corner and I'm scared.
James needed an adult.
Yeah.
and that stupid son of a bitch who brought out the pistol, what's the first thing he done? He cleared the weapon, he set it on the table.
And he
Thank
was
you.
drinking. All right, so
So
Education.
education is my
Right.
big deal, and
So-
and in a couple different aspects.
so you have community awareness, Brothers Keeper. You have what? I forgot. I ain't gonna lie.
You get about 6 words, so you choose them carefully.
Go at them hard and fast.
Oh.
As a community,
So you are really close, right? Root and you are close.
except for that, I'm talking about in the moment. This is a tactical solution, not a.
Long term.
It's not post hoc.
Right. Well, or
Did he
pre
say
hoc,
hoc?
if you will.
He said
He
hoc?
said post hoc.
Why are we gonna talk about pork?
Again, learn some Latin.
All right, and Caleb is about
Education. Yeah.
All right, so
All right, so here comes James for the next 2.5 hours.
No,
it's all
no,
James,
no,
and
no,
none of
Ready?
the rest of us can
No,
talk because
no.
he's going to wave us all off.
So we're all just gonna stand here and go wrong.
I think you may be surprised at what my solution is.
I'm pretty sure I will be, but I'm pretty sure also that nobody else is going to have a word in it. But please continue.
Are we done? Because last time I checked, other than Caleb's Hawaiian juice, we're drinking my fucking bourbon. Because Alex didn't show up with shit.
I was about to go and get that white label Heaven Hill, but you know,
It's not good.
I like it.
That's not Heaven
It's
Hill.
stout. Oh, it's not what you
Oh,
what you
that's
put in
some, anyway,
it. Anyway.
so
He had the high end of Heaven Hill a few weeks ago. So
Oh, that's true. That's true.
my solution is this. It's a ripple effect. But I think
Like mine.
I have no problem with people having guns, whatever
Good.
gun they want. And I may bridge over into the libertarian perspective in this.
Whoa! What?
No, I'm just saying because I don't know that we're as far away from this as we would assume. I get labeled as one, Alex, Caleb, Root gets labeled as a certain type of people. I don't know where that far away.
All right.
So for me it's about choice. Because as Americans, we are giving free choice. Freedom, right? We have more freedom than any other country.
That's what they say.
It's about choice. So for me, it's about the legislation and the laws and the mandatory sentences. Shut your mouth! I smelled bourbon earlier and I am slurring. Fuck! I've been drinking water. I have been responsible.
And he can't even say mandatory.
So it's about the mandatory sentences when it comes to firearms. If I commit a crime,
All right.
whatever that crime may be, and it involved, if I have a firearm on me, then all of a sudden that crime got escalated to a mandatory sentence if I get convicted.
True enough.
Because I left the house and I chose to take that firearm with me. And if I have a traffic violation, if I have a whatever, if I get in a fight at a bar, I have a gun on my hip, that redefines that moment.
It can.
It should it should, because if you're committing a robbery, if I'm looking at Alex and I'm going, I want to take your money, and I have a gun on my hip, that has a different definition than if it's just about between he and I.
Okay, so are
I'm
you
not
stating,
done.
Are you stating that's what it is now, or that's what you wish it would be? That's your solution.
That's how it is now.
Okay.
It's the difference between armed robbery and robbery. It is. I don't need you to make that motion ever. What you just did was cutesy. I don't need it.
It's true that generally speaking, our laws reflect having a gun on our person outside our home as opposed to within.
If it's a perceived threat,
Yeah.
then there's a different level of.
So you're open carrying then?
I don't have a problem with open carry. I don't.
But no.
I really don't.
Perceived, though, is what he's saying.
It's a perceived threat.
If
I walk up to a bar fight and I have a 45 on my hip,
openly
Right.
on your hip, not
Then-
inside the waistband, not concealed. Open.
exactly.
Okay.
If it's open, then I have changed that whole dynamic.
That's
I
right.
would
You're
agree.
also
When I show up to that damn dance, right?
Yeah.
If I get pulled over by a cop and I have a 357 in my passenger seat, that cop is dealing with me differently than if I didn't.
Trust me, you get a full felony stop. I've been there.
Right. So I'm saying if you choose to take a gun with you and it is a conviction, you have a different level of incarceration than you did before. Because you chose.
Yep.
There has to be something to where we determine that people, when they leave the house, don't take the fucking gun with them. And if they do take the gun with them, they have a higher level of expectation of what type of citizen they have to be than otherwise. Because if you're going to go out and show your ass at a bar, keep your fucking gun at home. If you don't, you're going to be facing a severe penalty that would not have taken place if you'd left that damn thing at home. And once a few times that happens, people start making different choices. Is it that important to bring your fucking gun to the dance? Root brings guns with him when he goes. Caleb does too. And I appreciate that.
Maybe.
But when you have that gun on you and you know, if I engage in this and I'm wrong,
Then there's going to be
there's
hell
going to be
pay.
far harsher consequences to my actions than if I had left this gun at home or I had not engaged in this.
True enough.
And that's happened. There are situations.
It has happened. It doesn't happen enough.
Maybe not enough,
Because
but
if I get pulled over for speeding and I have a gun in my car, it's a whole different level of incarceration.
It's not.
Why? I took the fucking gun. If that cop
what does speeding have to do with you having a
it's
gun
my
with
turn.
you?
It is my turn.
Okay, go ahead.
If the cop walks up to my car and I say, you know what, I have a gun, that cop is in a different world
He is.
yeah, different.
than
set
if
line.
I didn't take a gun
He is.
because I broke the law.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
But I'll go first.
How?
Go, no,
It's all of a sudden Nate Roxbury. Like you meant.
no. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. The there was a shooting in Bardstown, Kentucky years ago. Nobody's found the shooter. A cop was killed.
I hurt myself when I beat my chest a little bit. There was some bruising.
You didn't
Yeah,
flex
it-
hard enough.
It might be because you're a pussy. I
Well,
don't know.
I'm not. I'm wearing a hat. You're not.
I don't need one. I'm sexy.
You
enough.
do. You do need a hat.
So
There's a video.
there is video. So I was coming home and completely unaware of this shooting nonsense. I get pulled over for speeding, and cop comes up, and I got my hands on the wheel because I know what I need to do in that situation.
10 and 2. Yeah.
Right. Hands were on the wheel from the time I came to a stop to the time the cop got to me. And my first words when he came up is, Sir, I don't know what I did, because I honestly didn't. I was too exhausted to know, honestly. But I said, I don't know why you pulled me over, but you need to know I have a concealed carry permit. My weapon is in the vehicle.
Which is exactly what you need to do.
Which
but
is
how many people do that?
If they don't do that, then they are already in the wrong because they're trained to do that in the course.
It's cute that you think that everybody that carries a gun has had that training. Really, it's fucking Kentucky, dude.
Well,
Well,
if
but
you've
it's
got
fucking
not
Kentucky.
required.
if you've got a
Reasonable
concealed
person.
carry, you do know that.
No, exactly.
But-
But do you really think that everybody in Kentucky
Before-
that carries a firearm has had that class?
Before I got the class, I knew to do that, and I was still carrying.
But you're self-aware.
Exactly. If you're not self-aware, you deserve the fucking consequences.
That's my point. If you bring a gun to the dance
Then you deserve your bullshit.
and you don't do what you're supposed to, you are held to a higher standard than if you don't.
And that's rightfully so.
If I'm in a carnival at a state fair and an altercation takes place, and after that altercation I am deemed guilty of whatever I've done and I have a gun on my hip, that's a different sentence than if I didn't. Because I chose, when I left my house, to bring a gun to the state fair. It's about choice. We cannot regulate who has guns. We can't.
Nope.
We cannot. We cannot take guns away from people who already have them. We can't.
Right.
We cannot legislate. You need to be a good law-abiding citizen and not do this. People that make these decisions are not law-abiding citizens. We cannot expect them to adhere to the law.
Well-
But it's about the choice. All right, I'm going out on a Friday night. I'm a concealed and carry guy. I'm that guy. I am Murphy.
All right.
All right, and I decided to
He's
take.
going to love this
I
story.
decided to take my gun with me, put it in the car. I'm good.
He's going to carry it everywhere. So yeah.
No, but I just put it in the car, and I go out and have a little bit more fun than I thought I would. And I get pulled over. There's a gun in my car. That's a different level of fear for that trooper, that police officer, because you've acknowledged there's a gun in the car, and I am not doing something right. Whatever that may be, it's about choice. If we cannot legislate choice, then none of this stuff's going to matter.
We can't legislate choice.
But if you make the punishment far, all right, I already harken back to this.
He's stealing
Hearken.
a word.
I hearken.
He's stealing he harkens. Oh my God.
He might know some Latin after
All
this
right,
too.
right? I'm a slow
I think that's
roll,
old. I
brother.
think that's old English, but
I'm a slow roll. It's like Latin for Paducah, is what I'm talking about.
Oh, in Western Kentucky,
But
brothers, they don't know Latin.
if I see a pretty girl, and I'm like, oh my goodness, because I am all about the women,
No.
and I decide to hook up with her, and I know she's married, but
It's not
But-
going to stop him.
but-
Here he goes.
I know.
that's only the first half of the sentence.
Right. But and I know that if I hook up with her and I get caught, my dick will be cut off. There's much more likely that I will not hook up with her because she's not worth my wiener. Because the punishment exceeds.
It took him a while to get there.
No,
you notice?
The punishment exceeds the benefit of making that choice.
All
Right? You
So-
have to make the punishment so hard that you don't make that choice. Now, will it fix something? No.
So if
It will not
somebody's-
fix everything.
So if somebody steals something, we should cut off their hand. Is what
Sure,
you're
I'm
saying.
fine with that.
Okay.
You know what? What happens
Just
when
wanna
that
throw that out
happens?
there.
Do you know what happens? They stop stealing shit. Or they don't get caught.
People
So,
start
okay.
planting
And if
bombs in
somebody
the
walks
road
around,
and-
if somebody walks around with the stump, you know they're a thief.
Well, okay, let's not call it a stunt because, you know, a lot of railroad workers lose their hands and stuff.
I don't know what that was.
It sounded like the pump.
It was a sump pump.
Some pump? I didn't pee in it.
No, he did not this time.
Not yet.
Yet. It's early.
Caleb,
But-
move to the left.
Let's just go with the brand then. So anybody with the scarlet letter, everybody knows then that this person has been doomed to some kind of failure in their past.
I'm saying the
There's no-
punishment should exceed the pleasure in doing what you're doing.
Okay.
And
well,
if that
then-
way, if you decide I'm going out tonight, I'm taking the gun, then you know that this punishment, if I do something wrong, is going to far exceed anything that I could enjoy from this endeavor. You're going to behave differently because the punishment is so harsh. You don't want to engage in that. It's about punishment. It has nothing to do about regulation. I'm sorry. If you want to fill out a fucking application, I know how to fill in the blanks. I do. It's like going to a fucking interview. I know how to answer questions.
But
You're actually expecting people to be self-aware and being honest. Really?
it doesn't sound like you and I are very far apart then.
No, we're not.
I'm talking about breaking their legs before they do it. You're just talking about breaking their legs after they do
I'm talking about letting the punishment be known. I was in Michigan, and they said in Michigan,
it. He's not allowed back, by the way.
I'm not. Well, there was something
No.
that happened up there.
No, that's Canada.
Oh, that's right.
But I was on my way there. I was out there. It was the northern route.
It was the same trip.
I-75 north. Stuff happened. Anyway. But they actually said if you are convicted of going more than 15 miles over the speed limit, you get this. It was cause and effect. If you are convicted, this is what you have to suffer. And you know what people did? They thought, you know what? I can't afford that shit. I'm going to slow down. It's about is the punishment. Right now we live in a system that the punishment is not sufficient to what you are charged with. It just isn't.
Do you think people who are going into a school shooting it up are worried about what the punishment's going to
No,
be?
no, because that's an extreme.
But
No, wait.
But
It's
I'm-
a
but I'm-
matter
but
of
I'm-
when they
That's what we're
leave.
talking about.
It's a matter of when they leave the house.
They-
All right, if you're talking about school shooting, we cannot legislate again. You cannot stop fucking crazy. You can't.
Sure you can.
What, by giving guns to fucking teachers?
No.
By
No,
telling
no,
the
no.
parents, oh, you shouldn't do that.
Nope.
Junior was homesick one day.
Nope.
I went to work and the fucker shot up the school.
Nope. Nope.
Fuck that.
You make it clear because of prior incidents, right? We can't.
We're going to give them 1, 2, or 3 strikes.
We
What
can't.
are we going to do?
No. Shut up. We can't implement any of our solutions.
Seems aggressive.
We can't implement any of these solutions we've talked about today and expect it to take immediate effect. We've
Right.
all agreed to that.
All right, you know what
So-
I think we can do?
All right.
Is take all of them.
Well, you and I are pretty much on the same
No,
page.
I'm
It's just
saying-
you want to brand them after the fact.
No,
I
I'm
wanna
saying
kill
that
them
there
before the
is
fact.
a huge media outcry and saying, if you do this.
Wonder why that is.
No, if you do this, you're going to be suffering. If you take a gun to a bar and you get in a fight and you're convicted of assault, right? Then you are going to be suffering 5 years hard time, and this is what that hard time involves.
Even if the gun had no
If you're
play,
convicted.
but even if the gun had no play in the
Exactly.
altercation or whatever.
Because you
The
chose.
fact that
no,
you had
stop. You chose to take that fucking gun to the dance. That's a choice you make every day you leave the house. Every day. No, I'm sorry. No,
The Kubaton is considered the deadly weapon.
no,
just
I'm
like
talking
a
about
firearm.
mass shootings. We're not talking about the fucking stick on your
But-
keychain.
But we're still talking about
All
concealed
right,
weapons under your.
I can take my
situation.
pinky and shove it through your nasal passages.
I
It
doubt
doesn't
that.
mean
I
my
got a
pinky is a
phony
danger.
nose.
I don't want to be anywhere close to you. I saw a booker for the last 3 hours. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I'm saying if you made
Yeah,
that
Caleb,
choice,
fix that.
it's about the choice you make when you leave. It's just that simple. If you make that choice, then behave better.
So what? As Alex was getting at, what if the choice you're making when you're leaving is to go clear out that bar with every single round in your 100 mag?
We can
drum magazine.
The whole thing
And your
that we
bullshit.
talked about. Caleb said, education. If you make that choice, education doesn't matter. If you make that choice, yours doesn't matter. Mine doesn't matter. We're talking about the
disagree.
overall.
I think the chances of you coming to be a person who's going to do that, having been educated. So we're talking long term here. I mean, we're not talking about like.
Agreed.
Right?
Overnight
So it's like,
anything.
this is not fixing the one that happens next
Oh
week.
God,
Right.
how long have we been on the war against drugs and?
Well,
and
no.
but-
No,
but-
it's-
That's a whole other
All right,
thing.
no, wait,
Which
let-
involves
let-
mandatory sentences that
let
you
me
brought
try
up
one more
that
thing.
haven't worked.
Let me try one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead and float another one because that didn't float at
No,
all.
I'm just saying. I'm dating now.
No.
And I meet people that are smokers. And I'm like, why the fuck would you smoke knowing what we know? We have educated every generation since yours and ours. Aaron's shit. Cut. Alex's generation, Caleb's generation.
God, I'm
We
gonna
have
have to listen to this whole
educated
thing.
every one of them, right? but yet fuckers still smoke.
So,
It's not about education.
but
because people
I,
are going,
I actually,
that's a great idea.
I actually
Okay.
completely disagree.
Well,
because,
it's good that you do.
Because here's the thing: how many people smoke now versus 80 years ago,
A
or
lot fewer.
or even in the 80s? In the 80s, how many times did you walk into just about anywhere and it was a smoking location?
Or can we just adopt smoking and vaping? Because it's the same fucking thing.
Well, but how many of the places now that say no smoking also say and no e-cigarettes, right?
Because you're talking about places, not people.
Again, but the point being, we as a society changed, and this is actually one of the things that I would hope we could kind of circle back on, and I think it kind of fits with Caleb's comment too.
We agree and they agree. That's crazy.
So
It's crazy how close we all are.
so when it comes down to it, I mean, there's a reason I keep using the word mitigation, right? We are
Yeah.
not solving this problem,
Right,
right.
No, even if you took every gun out of the country, you would still have these problems in other forms,
Right.
right? It's the person walking in with
Oklahoma City
with a knife.
is a prime
It's the person walking in with a 55-gallon drums of fertilizer.
Nitrate, yeah.
The thing though is why are we a society that produces people who do this, right?
That's what I find.
And how
She has the
she
answer.
has the answer.
That's the answer. Oh my God.
Done.
So how much can we be less a society that produces people who do those kinds of things?
You know-
and I think education, one, our perspective on violence in general. The less we are
Oh my God, I'm sorry, but it seems like we have pussified everything since Root and I have been a kid. You know, back in the day, I'm gonna sound like an old codger, and I get that.
Well, you are.
But back in the day, Root and I could have a knockdown, drag-out fight, and then we go get a Coke afterwards.
And be buddies long after.
Exactly, because some of the best friends I ever had was people that I stood toe-to-toe with.
People who broke your nose.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm sorry, but we have pussified a society to where everything that we do is offensive, and everything that we do, oh my God, there's a community for that.
But you know who
because
did-
I have a heartache about it.
But you know who did that, right?
Us.
The individuals who, as children, went through that, what you just talked about. When they raised their kids, they raised them in a completely different situation.
Oh,
Yeah.
You haven't met
It's
my
true.
boy yet.
I've met my nephews, and my God love her. Love my sister-in-law to death, but
But we're
she told even her step nephews, if you will.
I don't know that's the thing.
Well,
I don't know what that is.
the nephew she
A
inherited.
half-step nephew.
um,
Pew, pew, pew.
taught them never to strike another soul. You know,
You know
don't-
why,
You
though?
don't fight. I did it. And
I will hit him in his ear.
one of those nephews made his mama, my sister-in-law, his stepmom, cry one too many times. I visited the boy where he worked. We had a conversation, and his non-aggression pact didn't quite work out too well for him. All of that, I agree with Caleb, was a failure of our generation, because my sister-in-law is not that far from us. It is a failure. The same thing that James and I was taught. You know, if it has to come to blows, then you fight, and I'm putting up the air quotes here, fair.
He does it all the time.
I know.
It never works.
Well, but it's working now because I called it.
You think?
I did. We'll see. We'll see. But if you know, you have a good fight, you have a brawl, you figure it out by right of arms, and you move on. That's two individuals having a conflict there, and you sort it out. Now, if one of those two folks later in years decides to go back to the same school and take out 3 or 4 classrooms, I'm 100% with Alex on this. You stop them fuckers. I don't care if it's the teachers, the janitor, the administration, the students. You stop the assault.
I think we're leaning toward that now, is that we are learning through these aggressions. That
I'm not
what
so
should we
sure.
do when this stuff happens, right? because I think you're seeing that the assailants are changing their path,
I don't.
right?
I don't see that.
I don't
all
think
right, so the Vegas shooting, that guy was in the fucking hotel room in a music concert, right? Nobody could rush him
No.
as opposed to 9/11 when everyone could have rushed those assailants. I think the assailants are choosing to do things differently. All right, you have
I think the Vegas shooting is a different approach. It is
The sniper situation is a little different.
Yeah, that's an outlier.
so that seems to be more than what we want to talk about.
And he always goes 1, 2, 3 coming out of a break.
All right, I had
It's
to pee in
3,
the
2,
sump
1.
pump.
If
I had to
but
pee in
it's
the sump
3,
pump.
2, 1. It's not 1, 2, 3.
Anyway, I
Good
think
Lord.
that the
Don't think I won't put the intermission in there.
again,
Might
my
put the
point is this.
trickle.
If I have to recap, Root is about brothers keeper.
Individual community
All right.
responsibility.
Alex is about, I can never remember what you said because it seems to be a lot.
Stronger background checks was in there. I remember that.
So generally speaking, for the longer term, obviously, like working to make sure that guns are actually in the hands of people who they should be in, and then secondly, dealing with the just tactical situation of what do we do when somebody's like attacking a group. We as a group have to respond fast and hard.
Get them.
Get 'em.
Yeah.
Get them. Caleb, you're talking about education. right?
Education starts in the home, right? But then also within the school system of having places for people to fit in and things like that, and have that community around them, and not be, I guess, falling into that extremist mentality of different things and all the different rhetoric that's out there, and having a solid base back into your brother's keeper deal of having people to fall back on. And when they start coming up with batshit crazy ideas, somebody looks at them and go, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you know that's not right.
Which
What
has
do you-
already happened
yeah.
like 3 times tonight, right?
Right, yeah.
And
Mostly
then,
when you talk, but it's just,
and then dealing with that situation
Yeah.
when it starts to get serious.
And my perspective was to make the punishment exceed what the benefit of the choice would be when you leave the house.
So your punishment comes from a government perspective.
God, yeah. I mean, honestly, I have no problem at all with cutting some fucker's head off and putting it in the county courthouse. I don't. I'm serious.
Sponsored by
Mike at the Plaza Barbershop.
he does up his hair after they cut his head off.
He
Is that what-
will do a cadaver.
You'll
head.
look damn fine sitting up on the pike.
So
out
what
in
I'm
front
saying
of
is we
Franklin
need to talk
County
about Mike
Courthouse.
right now.
I
Right.
think we should. Yeah.
All right,
It's
so-
a fine time.
so-
Much better than when I suggested it earlier.
So-
Much better. So what size pike does Mike have exactly?
Well, it's a 3/4 gauge.
It's a 3/4 gauge
It is.
pike. Okay.
Or 3/4 or a full inch. I don't know. But Mike at the Plaza Barbershop here in Frankfort, Kentucky,
Doesn't he do an amazing job?
with cadaver hair or our hair?
Or our hair. Not that there's much difference.
Which is both in the same with root. If you go to the Plaza Barbershop here in Frankfort, Kentucky, ask for Mike. He will give you a deal. And let
He
me
will.
tell you what the new deal is.
What is the deal?
The new deal?
What is the new deal?
Just like the historians talk about the New Deal, right?
You don't
Not
even
this
know.
historian.
You don't even know which president it was.
I know.
Oh,
Eisenhower,
God,
Truman. I don't know.
Oh,
Wow.
no.
Was it either?
No.
Anyway, Mike,
was
the Plaza
Franklin
Barbershop here in
Communist
Frankfort,
Roosevelt. That's who it was.
One of the
Oh,
Roosevelts.
Delano was his.
Well, or Theodore, whichever one.
No, it wasn't
Was
well,
it
it
the fat
was
one or
probably
skinny one?
Theodore.
All right. Anyway, Mike at the Plaza
They're
Barbershop here in
both
Frankfort.
progressives. It doesn't
Separated
matter.
by 40
Everything you're
years.
saying is hurting our sponsor. Mike at the Plaza Barbershop here in Frankfort, Kentucky. He will give you a deal.
He will.
Kentucky.
I will punch you in your face.
That would be the Plaza Barbershop.
I will do a weenie wipe
Kentucky.
on your forehead. I will. It's like going to the bathroom at your friend's house.
James took a whiff of a cork of a bottle of Elijah Craig 12-year-old earlier tonight. He hadn't been right since.
Well, I'm sorry. I supplied all the fucking bourbon in the house.
He did, and it's been amazing.
Caleb brought some shit from Hawaii,
Hawaii,
which no one wants to drink.
moonshine, and he's please going to take it back home.
You know
and
what
put it in
Mike
his
wouldn't do?
honeymoon
I was
He's
jar.
hoping y'all would finish it.
I would not
Fuck
give that.
that.
I would not give it to Mike at Plaza Barbershop
No,
here in
fuck
Frankfort,
no.
Kentucky. I would not do that.
No, honestly,
Kentucky.
my Weller, the other half of the Weller 12 upstairs,
Yes.
that I think at least some of that is mine.
Oh, it's
He forgot to
horrible.
mark the bottle last time.
You did not mark the bottle.
No, I didn't, but I paid for half of it.
You have now. Thank God. It took like 6 months to get his payments in. He was like paying the quarter every 3 days.
We didn't discuss terms at the time, brother.
All right, so
But I would share.
share.
Not shit. Well, let me think. No. I would share that with Mike at the Plaza Barbershop here in Frankfort, Kentucky.
At the Save-A-Lot parking lot.
At the Save-A-Lot parking lot. Yes, I would.
Because what Mike does is he will give anyone that comes in and mentions the podcast a deal.
He will.
He will give you a $12 haircut and a $3 beard trim.
An amazing job.
And
on
I'm going
both.
to tell you what, the people in this room right now. So Root has a solid square beard, right?
I do.
Thank God for Mike, because before then it was like chia hair.
It was rough.
It was chia. I mean, it was like chia.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it was. And then we have Alex, that is the #1 guard at his house, right? Half-inch guard.
Don't make me put the crickets in now.
It's custom cut.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's
Scissors.
And Caleb, and Caleb is the inch and a half.
Well, I think it just came in last week, but
No, Caleb has a solid beard.
he does.
All
He
right.
does. He does.
And then I have the point. All right.
He
So,
does.
and Mike can handle all those. If you go into Mike's Plaza Barbershop, ask for Mike.
Photo to Kentucky.
Let's talk about the hours too.
You know what? I'm gonna just hit him. I'm gonna T-bone him right here.
You know,
It's on video. We're recording this podcast.
We are. But he's also 3 for 4 on some pretty quality work.
He's not doing bad.
He's not bad.
But
so,
but I need to put him on his ass just to let him know where he is in the chain.
But you did it in the presence of a firearm, so you're going to be triply charged.
That's what I'm talking about. Because I didn't bring a firearm to the dance. I'm going to T-bone him and make his ass go to jail.
But it's here. It's your house. You made the choice
do
to
I need to
allow
bring
it.
it out and put it on your side of the table? 'Cause I can.
Anyway,
I mean, it's right here.
If you go to the Plaza Barbershop here in Frankfort, Kentucky, and you ask for Mike,
Our former sponsor.
He will give you a haircut for $12, and because you listen to the show, a beard trim for $3.
But you got to mention Slightly Uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
You got to mention the show.
Yep. So anyway, we're time for the summation, right? I mean, we toiled over this for quite some
Do
time.
we have another 2 hours?
We do, but
We do?
we need to shut the shit down.
What does
We do.
America?
So what I have heard, and thank you all so much for being kind and no, honestly, because
have.
we've
No,
allowed for other
There's
opinions.
absolutely no reason to not have a civil conversation about this.
Amen.
Because like we talked about before, this is obviously a problem and something
A
needs
huge
to happen.
problem, yes.
It is a huge problem. But
And it's
there's
going to get-
absolutely
and
no
it's getting
reason.
worse.
And civil
and worse and
conversation
worse.
is actually the only way we'll ever make progress
Exactly.
on any of these kinds of
Right.
things.
Because
And-
if you're civil, if you have a back and forth, when you have an idea that I'm like, hey, I hadn't really thought about that perspective or that idea or that angle, maybe it actually fits in more with what I'm thinking about going this direction, then you find a middle ground and then you make
And you can
progress
kind of layer
and come up
stuff.
with solutions. You layer solutions on top of each
Because
other.
I think
and
what
you
we've
move on.
heard is through all of our 4 perspectives, and we are all 4 on different ends of the spectrum politically. We understand that.
Wait. I thought there were only 2 ends of the spectrum.
Oh, it's cute that you think
There's those D people and the R people,
All right.
and there's no.
Caleb, can you stop him?
You got neutral good, chaotic good.
That's right.
Chaotic evil, neutral evil, right? All those things.
I'm perfectly happy over here in my chaotic evil corner.
But I'm saying is that if we layered our solutions, I think we have something.
That's what it's
honestly,
going
in
to
all
take.
of 'em.
You're going to have a little bit from
You have
a
to.
lot of different.
Because there is no
Ideas.
button you can switch
No,
to
no,
make
no.
this stuff work.
No.
No,
There isn't.
there's nothing that we could implement today and expect it to take effect tomorrow.
And this never be a problem again.
Right,
It's
right.
not going to
There,
happen.
there are no bunnies and unicorns in the future here. Not in the immediate future, anyway.
Now I'm just thinking about bunnies and
You're just
I turned low power mode.
Yep.
Siri. Shut up.
Siri is my friend. I don't know if you know this, but I have a relationship with Siri. She
Yeah,
listens to me all the time.
Yeah. My buddy Bixby here hadn't said shit all night because I turned him the fuck off.
God, how old are you? You said Bixby.
It's an S9. That's the vocal coach.
In the year of our Lord,
Galaxy.
2012?
No, it's a Galaxy S9. Shut the fuck up. It's
I
so good.
like when he gets poked.
2017.
Swimming through the weeds over here.
But would everyone not agree that layered this may work?
Yeah.
And there's a good chance
Parts
it
of
may
it.
not.
I think it'll help.
Right, exactly.
I-
There's a good chance it may not.
But-
Because if you legislate things, regardless of what they are, whether it's personal legislation,
I don't want it legislated.
oh God, he has a problem with words. If it's about
Words mean
personal
things.
accountability,
Okay.
right? or militia accountability, if it's
Community.
if it's about whatever Alex said, if it's, I like the ability to remember what he says.
Ending.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who said something that we could actually do tomorrow.
right. Alex, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, he will.
And we're
What?
probably
What
going
was that?
I disagree with the notion of an enforcement on a training mechanism to prove your worthiness of a firearm, but we can discuss that later.
Sure.
That was absolutely one of your positions, though.
Of
I-
many.
As a long term, yeah.
As a long-term solution, that was absolutely one of Alex's solutions. And then also ending the fight before it takes as many lives as we've seen.
So take him out is
Take 'em out.
is what you said and what Root said, and I remembered what you said because Root said something.
Because I reminded James, because he smelled a cork of bourbon earlier tonight.
Just
It's
saying,
been
I have
2
a lot of
hours.
stuff going on over here. I'm just saying, I have a lot of stuff going on over
Yeah,
here.
you have to push record,
No.
and then you have to push stop,
There are
and then you have to
girls.
smell a cork.
There's a girl, and
you
then
know.
there's you all. And
Yeah, it gets busy. I get it.
Siri?
Hey Siri, what's my name?
His name is nothing.
It doesn't matter what your
Nothing.
name is.
It doesn't matter what your name is exactly.
So, and then Caleb said about education. And then I said about incarceration. I mean, it's all about different levels. You stop it at the home level. Alex stops it at the event level. Caleb stops it before it ever becomes any of those. And then I stop it once it's happened. Because it's about what consequences, for me, that you have to face when this is all over. If you're convicted, what does it look like for you? And if you see people, and this is an extreme circumstance because I'm a Game of Thrones fan, and if you see somebody's head on a spigot out in front of the courthouse,
On a what?
on a spit.
On a spit. On a pike. It's a pike,
No,
James.
honestly, I'll let you get some water out of the spigot.
There's no water hose attached to their fucking nose.
I just threw my hat.
They got their mouth open and just water coming out.
I'm actually building one of those on my back porch.
Anyway, if it's about somebody's head on a spike at the courthouse,
Spike. There we
at
go.
some point, people stop doing it.
That's true. Oh boy. is
Please
that
don't
true.
do that at the courthouse across from my house.
Well,
It didn't work
know,
for the
but
Brits
what
against
I'm
the
saying
Scots, so
What I'm saying
I
is
don't think it
that
will work.
Didn't work out too well for the Taliban either.
no, we live in an extreme circumstance now. We have extreme freedoms. And with extreme freedoms, we have extreme
I
responsibilities.
don't think we have extreme freedoms.
We do in certain circumstances.
I don't think
If
we
you
do.
look worldwide on our gun control and our
I'd
gun
say compared to the rest of the
availability-
world, we do.
Absolutely.
No.
Oh, fuck yes, we do.
No, we have just simple freedom, or at least we should.
Can you have the gun you want? No
I
place
can.
else in the world can you do that.
I know. And
So
fuck
it's
them.
extreme freedom.
No,
There's
it's
entire
not.
continents where you can.
No, it's not. The rest of the world lives in tyranny. We have individual liberty. We get to choose what kind of property we own.
But yet we kill each other at a higher rate
And
than
so
anyone
does
else
everybody
does.
else in the
No,
world.
no,
It's
no,
called
at a
human
higher
nature.
rate than anyone. If you look at China,
We
if
also
you look at
have
Russia,
the largest media presence on the planet. Every time someone pulls a hammer back, someone has a story to tell about.
China is bigger than us.
And they
Russia,
kill each other by the droves with knives.
not comparatively.
Do you know that for a fact?
I do.
No, their government just
I'm
drags
not.
them off into camps and things
And
like that.
puts
and
AK-47
kills
rounds in the back of
millions
their
of
heads
them at a
and
time.
builds the fucking family for
And
them
my
around.
whole thing of it is, if the incarceration exceeds the crime,
I don't
you
want
stop
to be
doing it.
I don't want to be China.
No.
I don't either because
I don't want to be.
I don't want to be blindfolded by
Soviet
dental
Russia.
floss.
I don't want to be I don't want to be Saudi
This
Arabia.
seemed like a lot, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sorry.
Any Chinese listeners out there, we're sorry.
Well,
Hey, Hung Lo, just turn the volume off right now.
Chinese communist, fuck you. I have no qualms
All right,
with that
easy.
whatsoever.
Free Tibet.
But
All right, so let's summate. All right, come on. He's fucking off China. He's fucking off the largest country in the world.
fuck them. Fuck them.
I'm sure they care.
Well, we had a few downloads over there. I'm just saying.
Oh, really?
Well, then that's
You-
great. And
Alex just showed up to the dance. You have no idea who is listening to us now.
we are worldwide.
Oh my
baby.
God, Scotland is a hot spot for us.
But if everybody who's ever listened to the show knows where I'm at, right? I'm 100% individual
Wackadoodle.
liberty, and let everybody do whatever the fuck they want to do, so long as they're not hurting anybody else or stealing their shit.
But I think that we're all consistent in what we think. All right.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But I think what I really take away from this, and we had not discussed this prior to the show.
Not much.
Nobody knew what anyone else thought, right? But the fact that Root, Alex, Caleb, and I can all build on and hopefully attain a solution that is closer than what we have now. Is it going to work 100% of the time? No. You cannot legislate against or rule against crazy. You can't.
No.
You cannot predict crazy.
No, that's
I am dating. You cannot predict crazy. You don't see it coming. You don't know what to do with it when it gets there. You just hope you get laid.
But
That's all you hope.
there are indicators you can.
Oh, it's cute that you think so. Stay married, Caleb. Stay married.
If her name is something Lynn, you probably got a bad at. Right?
We're in Kentucky.
She's Tammy
Every
Lynn,
girl's
back-
name's Lynn.
She's Tammy Lynn,
All right.
Becky Lynn,
Number
Audrey
one,
Lynn.
if it's Tammy, stay away.
done, yeah.
You cannot find a good Tammy. There is no place there is a good Tammy. If you name your child Tammy, you have fucked them up the whole
Especially
time.
today.
Or
I mean,
Cinnamon or
that's-
Portia. You
that's
know what they're
early
doing.
80s shit right there.
You do. All right, so anything else before we finish the thing up? I
What-
mean, it's a hard topic.
It is, and
And I really appreciate you guys.
yeah.
I do.
It's been a good conversation. We've had a lot of fun with it. And we mentioned once before that don't let our levity be
But you have to at some
an
point.
ignorance to.
But you have
the
to at some
seriousness of
point
this
to
issue.
find some sort of solace in all of this, because it would be cute that anyone could think that they have the solution.
Yeah.
They don't. They simply
Well,
don't.
and-
We don't.
And there are plenty of people out there right now that are very loud voices that swear that this is it and this will fix everything, and
It
none
won't.
of it will.
No,
it
none of it.
won't.
Not one thing.
Yeah.
It won't, and it's those loud voices that really scare me.
Because
Yeah.
the thing that concerns me is when I was a kid,
When was that?
you saw a lot of people that would evolve to the point of putting a gun in their mouth in the end, right? But now we see those same people not making that choice. We see those same people deciding to, they're going to end it.
I would say they're making the same choice. It's just how many other people are they taking out with
Exactly.
them.
It's not a matter of being in a field or being in your bedroom. It's a matter of being in a mall or a club and then having some sort of notoriety because of what you've done.
Right.
Right? And I think we cannot legislate against that.
No.
We can't, because we don't know what crazy looks like to them.
The community these people hang out with do. They know when people make that turn.
Root, you are fucking crazy. You
Not
have
the
a
first time
gun
I've
in
heard
your
that.
backpack,
I do.
and you have information at your access that you can fuck either people up either informationally or physically.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with you. I'm not going to call the law on you. Alex is a cerebral assassin.
He is.
Caleb-
H.
Caleb-
A little smaller. but
Caleb
yeah.
is both. He's you and Alex combined. He's smart. He's crazy. That's what he is. And I'm just fucking crazy with pussy interests. That's the difference, right?
Oh my God.
I'm saying we're all crazy in our own regard. But you know what we do because we get together is we accept one another's level of crazy.
Yeah.
If we walk into an office complex, any of us, we are deemed that person. Right?
I was called out today by the president of my organization for
As
that.
you should be. I emailed him numerous times. Thank God he listened. But I'm saying that if we're talking about community involvement, it's all about perspective. My neighbor next to me thinks I'm far different than you do because she sees me at a different level.
But again, community does not mean proximity, as Caleb pointed out earlier.
But all right, but if the cops are called, that proximity means more than somebody that knows me through email
It
or a
doesn't anymore.
website. All right,
It doesn't anymore.
all right. Anyway,
I was recently a character witness for a friend of mine's brother in Missouri. So yeah, never met the man, just online.
he was named Cinnamon. And he had a very pretty picture.
I just gamed with the man for 5 years and never heard him say a harsh word about a soul.
The word is game. G-A-M-E, not
Yeah.
G-A anything else.
But I mean, you know,
Anyway,
community extends beyond proximity these days.
anything
Absolutely.
else? This is hard because each time, this is the scary thing is we talked about earlier before the show about Sandy Hook, right? That seems to be the mark
That's a thing everybody wants us to talk about.
The
It
low
is.
point, whatever you want.
where it all started.
No, Columbine.
Yeah,
I agree
Columbine.
with Columbine.
I'd say Columbine would be,
But the
then
fact
you go
that,
back to North Hollywood, like you said earlier.
Right.
but if we're
Right.
talking about schools,
Or Bath, Michigan in 1924.
nightclubs, churches, malls, it's where we go to feel safe. And through the actions of these individuals, those places are no longer safe. I went to a place in Louisville this past weekend, 4th Street Live, and everybody knows that's close to here knows about that place. And I was sitting there and I'm like, you know what? There are 5,000 people here, and any one of them could take us all out.
Yep.
That's what it. If you talk about a Super Bowl, if you talk about a college basketball game, if you talk about a fair, that's the thought that we all have when we go to those places. We're all tempered by what could happen if somebody makes a really, really, really horrid decision.
That's why you
And
got to be prepared when you go to
Nobody
those
thought that
places.
about airplanes before September of 2001.
I don't know. I think.
I don't know.
73
Have you
was
seen
better.
Airplane the movie? You haven't because you're 12.
Don't call me Shirley.
He has.
So, I mean,
Please don't call me Shirley.
don't call me Shirley.
And none of us
No.
have a drinking problem, I promise.
No. Oh.
So, I mean, having dealt with taking people into public situations and things like that where they see a lot of things on the news and the media where they maybe don't feel comfortable with it and things like that, you have to explain, yes, these things are horrid when they happen and they are awful, but the likelihood is so small.
So rare.
It's such an insignificant statistic that it could happen. But that's with anything in life. Anything could happen. You could be at 4th Street Live and one of the buildings next to you wasn't built properly and it falls down. You have no control over that. You don't know what's going to happen. There are all kinds of crazy things that happen in the world around us, and you have to live your life. You cannot fear what could happen, because if you do that, you will never live your life.
But I think our challenge today was if we had the opportunity, what would we do to fix it?
Well,
And I
yeah,
think
but
we all, I think we all nailed that. I think any of our individual choices would have aided in the solution. Would it have fixed it? No. But it would have aided in it.
This, gotta say, James, gotta say, with my community approach, with Alex's notion of taking them down once the incident happens.
The fact that Alex is the most violent of all of them is concerning.
Fight everyone.
with Caleb's approach of starting in the home and raising the kids properly and teaching them right from wrong and marksmanship and all of that.
What about mine?
None of the three of ours involve government involvement. Yours is talking about taking the heads off people and putting them on pikes in front of the courthouse.
Or spigots.
That's by definition of government
No,
involvement.
what I'm talking about is our judicial system needs to change in order for this to be effectuated. It just does. Because if it's going to be a hand slap, when somebody shows up to the fucking bar with a gun and there's a melee,
I'm good with public hangs after capital crime.
There are more laws on the books now regarding firearms, weapons of any kind than there ever have been in the history of the United States. And it hasn't solved anything.
You're going to have a lot of heads on
I'm sorry.
pikes, man.
I'm sorry. If you want to use that theory, education about smoking hasn't solved a fucking thing. If you want to attack people, it has not solved a fucking thing. And your community shit only works in the fucking holler. All right, none of this stuff is the absolute solution. None of it is.
Education has proven to help. There are far less smokers now than there ever were. Secondhand smoke.
Or how about vaping?
There's far
Really?
less. You don't have
there's
that
less
many
of
people
it.
that actually do it. How many
I've dated every one of them.
inside public places? Smoking is almost non-existent now because of the education.
Because of
factor.
legislative. Because you can't smoke. That's why people don't.
No, but
Where did the
private business-
legislation
Horseshit!
come from?
Horseshit!
The
If you go to Nicholasville,
The reason it got
If you go to
legislated was
Nicholasville
because
right
people
now-
stopped smoking.
No. If you go to Nicholasville right now, there's just as many people fucking smoking. They're driving from Lexington to do it because they smoke. Period. I'm sorry.
Okay, then that's private business allowing it to happen in their establishment. That's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But it's about, if
Well,
you're
you
talking
have to
about,
drive all the way to another town to do that because it's so not prevalent.
Well, you live in Lawrenceburg.
It's not
that far of a drive.
It's not legislation. It's business. It's personal choices of business.
All right, I'm
owners.
saying if you don't punish people adequately, they will keep doing the shit they're doing. Period.
I would prefer that punishment come from the people rather than from government.
All right, you're talking about militia shit. That
Yes.
doesn't work.
Yes, what? Because if the government,
Steven Seagal's your captain, right?
No.
It's all about like above the law and shit, right?
if the government can punish us that dramatically for one thing, for carrying a firearm and you get in a brawl at a bar,
Yeah.
then
Or
Keep
speeding.
that shit
Or
home.
speeding,
then the
according
next
to him.
leader of that government can kill us for anything.
Oh Lord Jesus! Kenny Loggins, please come rescue us.
Do you-
I'm just saying.
Laws
Do
are
you-
only
do
enforced
you
by the
trust?
current
Do you
government.
trust the government blindly to do
Negative.
that?
No, blindly, no,
No, then
no.
then your solution doesn't work, pal.
All right, so you trust your neighbors blindly. You trust the guys
no.
stop.
I trust
you
my
trust
community.
the ones in the airport blindly. You trust the fucking teachers blindly.
No.
You don't trust anybody blindly.
I trust.
That's stupid.
I trust my community.
Do you?
Yes.
You live in fucking Frankfurt. There's been
trust
two
you.
shootings.
I don't.
I trust you.
There's been two shootings the last 2 nights.
You're still equating community with proximity. I'm calling community my friend.
I've been to your house twice.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a good judge of what's going on in your home? No,
I would trust you to tell you
because I'm a fantastic person.
families.
I'm a pleasure to be around.
I am a pleasure. I am a joy.
I would trust everybody at this table right now to tell family issues to before I would go to my neighbor.
All right, so I think what we have
so far off,
determined is this. Agree with me, please, because we can end this table.
Yes, James, you're
I
right.
was really close to something, and then stuff went off the rails.
Because you're a government lackey and you want to hang us all on pikes in front of the courthouse.
I want to hang you, not everyone.
Just rude.
Maybe Caleb. I don't know
In
about
front of
now
Just
that,
bring
but
the Hawaiian moonshine.
the fact that he brought that shit, there should be punishment. There should be a caning in Lawrenceburg.